is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man. Hey, everybody, McGill Billy here.
And I'm Jamie.
And we've got a special guest with us today, all the way from the ex-mayor of outer space. He's from parts unknown, but a good friend of ours, Mr. Jeff Webb. Hey, Jeff, welcome.
Hey, good to see you guys. Good to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Jeff and Jamie go way back. And,
way back.
Long time.
I think we probably knew each other just by school.
That's exactly right. Around
and
high
different
school.
stuff like that. But and then of course I've heard all kinds of tales and stories, and of course everybody knows he's a liar. So
I'll give you the facts.
I didn't figure. Yeah, that's how you got the invite, wasn't it? That was the prerequisite to getting the honky tonk. You got to be a liar. But at any rate, it's good to have you.
Thank you.
It's been a while. You've been busy. You were telling us there beforehand that you had just gotten back from Europe.
I did,
and spent some time over there. Where all did you? I know you said Brussels and
went into Brussels just very briefly. Went down to Luxembourg. That was the main attraction. Wanted to go there and basically spend Memorial Day in Luxembourg.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Went over to Eastern France for a day to go see some more World War I battlefields, Verdun, places like that. And spent, a few more days in London, toured around different places that I'd seen in the past. Just wanted to spend a little more time there and see.
Sure.
So
what was their memorial? Was there a Memorial Day celebration in Europe?
As you know, you've seen Saving Private Ryan and the beginning there to the American Seminary at Normandy. Well, there's the equivalent of that in Luxembourg. There's a lot of people from the Battle of the Bulge that were killed that are buried there. And it's also where General Patton is buried as well.
That's right.
The U.S. had a Memorial Day service at all of those. And they had one there, and that was
all right.
It was very special.
So
Did everybody shake your hand? So thank you for bailing us out.
I went to France one time, and there was a French police officer saw my dad. My dad's pretty old, but he was obviously not in World War II. But there was a French police officer. Every time I see an American, I've got to thank them for what they did back so many years ago.
See. I wasn't being facetious. I mean, honorable.
Oh, yeah.
We'll tell that story later. We went to the Alamo one time and they stood up and shook our hand and saluted us and everything else.
Yeah.
We were from here. Remember that?
Tennessee. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Well, my old buddy, my old hippie neighbor, he's passed now, but his dad was a WW2 veteran.
Oh, wow.
And he was in South Pacific.
Wow.
And got captured.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And was part of that whole, terrible stuff over there. And he lost an eye, escaped, faked a death, escaped, and was helped by the Filipinos.
Oh, wow.
By the resistance fighters, the Filipino people, and got back to Mascot in 1945.
Wow.
And there had been write-ups in the News Sentinel about his passing, and they they had buried him. They had all this stuff, and he got back here and the neighbor was telling me, he said, anytime after, he said, anytime that I can, as far back as he could remember as a kid, all the way up through his adulthood, that anytime his dad seen a Filipino person, that he thanked them.
Wow.
He would offer to buy them dinner, because they saved his life.
He never forgot.
No, never forgot. So I didn't think about, when I asked you that, I didn't think about that aspect of it. But yeah, I guess even the foreign governments probably recognize that as well, because it was a world thing and
really was
not just a United States thing. So
it's always good to go to, overseas anywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you see stuff, you experience stuff, you learn so much more by actually being someplace.
Oh, yeah.
Whether, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
What about Somalia? Would that be a place you'd want to go?
You would learn something in Somalia.
You would learn something in Somalia.
If you're a lifelong learner, go to Somalia, but it's going to be the end of it. So.
Right.
Oh, boy.
So have you been fortunate enough to get to travel a lot?
I have.
Yeah.
If everybody has a vice, I'd say traveling is definitely mine.
Really?
I absolutely love it. One of the most special trips is me and my brothers. We were able to go to Nepal to go to Mount Everest base camp a few years back.
Oh, wow.
And we flew over there, flew into what's called Lukla, which is an airstrip cut into the side of the Himalayas, and started about a 10-day trek up to base camp. Stayed in the villages all the way up through there. And man, it was a real experience. It was fantastic.
So before they decide to go to base camp, Jeff says, Jamie, would you like to go with us? It's like a year out or whatever. And I said, come over here. I pulled up Mount Everest on the TV, on my computer. I said, seen it. Ain't happening. I had a 3-week trip on it.
Yeah, we did about 3 weeks altogether.
So to get to base camp, that's not, that's still.
It is, you don't just land at the airstrip in Lukla and do the distance in a day or two. Your body has to acclimatize because of elevation.
Sure.
And you've got, I don't remember what the elevation at Lukla is, maybe 10,000, 9,000 feet, something like that. By the time you get to base camp, you're around 17,500.
Wow.
And that adjustment period, your body has to adjust to that. So you spend days where you'll spend time in an extra day in a village to try to get used to.
And then once you make it to base camp, if you're going to try to do the summit, you got to stay up there for a month, right?
Oh, yeah. It's those people that do that is truly a month-long endeavor to get to the summit, and we were there at the very tail end of climbing season. A lot of the tents were still there from the major expedition and stuff, but it was really cool to see that.
Wow.
I couldn't, that's crazy. Just being at that many feet above sea level and seeing it, and then
that was my thing. It was like,
just lay eyes on it.
That was me. I wanted to go and see the highest point on earth and go and see it. And I'll never forget rounding a corner and it being right there in front of us for the first time, and you can look, all the other mountains are clear, but that one's got a little plume of clouds constantly coming.
Yeah. Bob Ross. That's I'll stop it.
It was a happy little mountain.
Happy little cloud.
We went to, I was trying to think of the name of it while we were talking, but I did when I went to Hawaii, we went to, so we were at Kauai. So we were on the northern, the most northern island, Northwest Island. And there's one more that's called the Forbidden Island.
I've heard of that.
Or Niihau.
Okay.
And unless you are 100% Hawaiian or you have, and it has to be written permission, nobody else is allowed over there.
Oh, wow.
So there is a population of people there, but they don't recognize the Queen or the United States or anything else. It's an actual sovereign place.
Right.
So, oh shit, I had my phone microphone on and it was picking up all that stuff. It was
searching.
It was about to blow up. But at any rate, so one of my big things was, I wanted to, in the same day, I wanted to see the east, I wanted to see the sunrise, and I wanted to see it set.
That's all good.
On the same day.
Yeah.
Because the park so my friend lived mountainside in Kapa'a, which is due east on the island. You fly in on Kauai, you come into south on the south end of the island, kind of the southeastern end of the island called Lahui.
Mm-hmm.
And then, from there it was, 20-minute ride to Bob's place.
Right.
So we got up that morning, went straight down to Kapa'a Beach and, I had my compass out. We were due east and got to see that. And then when we went around to the west side of the island, so the farthest north you can go, it's road doesn't go all the way around the island.
Okay.
It only goes to a certain spot north, and it only goes to a certain spot northwest, and that's it. And then you have the Nepali coast. So there is a park on that west side that's the furthest place in the Western Hemisphere.
Really?
That you can be west.
Okay.
And that's where I wanted to see the sunset.
Now that's pretty cool.
So that was something that wasn't a tourist
that's right.
thing, that I was just like, that would be, after kind of studying and reading about it, I was like, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have that whole day and then just jump around and,
I could definitely get into that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
I was trying to think. I'll see if I can. I can't remember the name of the state park, but
have you ever been to Hawaii?
Never.
I haven't either.
Not been to Alaska or Hawaii, either one.
I haven't either. I think I've either been in or in the airport and the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but never been to Alaska. I mean, those last two are hard to get to. They're not. You just don't drive. I crossed over the border here.
I was going past through Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, you could technically drive to Alaska.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't know. I like good road trips. I like.
That's an all-in commitment.
Oh, big time. Now I'm not saying, but I mean, in 2016 we drove all the way to College Station to see Tennessee play Texas A&M, and that was one of the funnest road trips
I guarantee it.
I'd ever had. So
speaking of road trips, we took one for, was it 22 states in 17 days.
Oh, wow.
That was in 99. That's when that was.
Summer 99.
Yeah.
And just for the heck of it, or what?
Yeah,
what spurned it all on? Just
getting ready to start our careers, or really get into them, and figured, hey, this is it until we retire. Right. So
let's go see how much we can cram in until it's time to.
Man, we did too, boy. We
got detained by border authorities.
Almost went to prison in Canada. So I'll just tell that story. Okay, so we're in Glacier National Park in Montana.
Okay,
and it borders to the north Alberta, Canada. So, or at least the part we were in, right there. So we go on this hike out to Iceberg Lake that day, and this one over here told me, he was like, it was about 3 miles. It was about 10.
Wait, the guy that just climbed the damn Matterhorn?
No, he hadn't been there yet. This was when we were younger. This was years before that.
I say it's called a joke, son, but only smaller.
So we do that all day. And of course, we're driving, so we carried our guns with us, and we decide that, hey, we better stash these guns somewhere because we had been camping. Right? Yeah. So we are going down and we stash the guns out in this place that, looked like a picture out of damn Grapes of Wrath, one of those single tree dirt road.
Or a Marlboro advertisement.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. And so we go up about another 2 miles to the Border Patrol. And I can't remember who was. I was driving. You were driving.
I was driving.
Jeff was driving.
And so you guys are legal, though.
Oh yeah, we're legal.
Carrying and.
But you guys from Tennessee,
we left our gun. We didn't have our gun on us at this point.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, we had enough sense so we pull up there, and the Border Patrol agent's this blonde, short-haired blonde, and I think we're getting like punked. I'm thinking this is right.
Yeah,
we were like, is this fake? Because she's, And so she asked,
"You're going to be sorry."
Yeah,
you're going to be sorry about it.
She asked him, "Well, do y'all have any alcohol on board?" Mr. Never Tell a Lie over here. He's like, "Yes, ma'am, we got a few beers." And then she says something and then points over there. And I said, what's happening? And Jeff looks at me and says, "We're getting searched." So they pull us inside while they dismantle our vehicle. They didn't take the vehicle apart, but they took everything out and left it out. So they take us into this interrogation room
and separate us.
Yeah. And he goes in first. And I'm thinking, my God, because I couldn't see what was in the room, but the room was actually somebody's office. So it wasn't as, they didn't have a little lamp on us and, get ready to waterboard us or anything.
Pancake syrup or nothing.
Yeah, but he's not allowed to speak to me when he comes out. So I go in and he asks us all these questions and whatever. And he's pretty stern with me. And then he says, "Oh, y'all are fine. Your buddy works for so-and-so." And so his TWRA got us out that way. Otherwise, we'd still be in Alberta.
Yeah, but we still had to repack our underwear because it was scattered all over the bay down there.
It looked like they had rifled through there just trying to steal shit. So we get up there. We drive to the Alberta sign. I get out, do like this. Jeff takes a picture. We turn right back around, go up to the U.S., and he's like, "Oh, y'all come on." Just let us go, didn't he? I don't even think.
How long was y'all in Alberta? We were like about an hour and a half. He goes, "Just go on."
Come on. We didn't like a rolling stop. We didn't even. It was just like creep. It's like, "Okay, see you." And then, of course, 2 years later, the border becomes an issue. That was in '99, but.
Well, there's been a lot of folks, faced a lot of crazy issues on the border with, like you say, with just a beer somebody's got a DUI. Mm-hmm. They won't let you in.
That's right.
Somebody told that story, didn't it?
Huh?
Somebody on the show told that story, a story like that.
I think
Daniel Shiflett.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
They got detained and something happened.
Yeah.
So I've got a friend of mine and we went to Scotland a few years ago. We wanted to go to the most remote pub in the UK mainland.
Okay.
We land in Edinburgh. Of course, we get ready to go through customs, and my buddy, he's a very funny guy, and everything that comes out of his mouth is funny. So I go up there to Border Force for the UK and just see a passport. I show them that. And it's like, "What's the purpose of your visit to the United Kingdom?" I was like, tourism. How long you been in the United Kingdom? 10 days. Go on. He gets up there, says, what is the purpose of your visit to the United Kingdom? He goes, to drink. She goes, you came to the United Kingdom just to drink? He goes, well, that and see shit. Go on.
Bloody Americans. Or fucking wanker.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Scotland. I had a good buddy of mine who went and one of those trips, like a 3-week,
right.
Or a good long time, and he was like, they're crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, like with papers, crazy.
Yeah.
And he said we came out one night, and I guess a guy was on his bachelor party or something, or it was a birthday or something like that. And they had stripped this guy naked to a light pole and taped him to it. And then his buddies just went on having the birthday party or bachelor party. I can't remember exactly which one it was. Chip, if you hear this, write in the comments about what story that was, or what holiday that was.
So I know y'all play at Boyd's Jigging Reel quite a bit. Well, Boyd's Jigging Reel got us a free night of lodging in Scotland.
Oh, really?
By pure accident. So me and this buddy, when we were on this trip, we ended up going to the top of Ben Nevis, which is the highest point in the UK. Man, it was snow up on the top. There was, beautiful clear day, which is very rare for Scotland. It was fantastic. I said, we're going to get over to what's called Knoydart Peninsula this afternoon. So we get off the mountain and we get in the car we rented and we bust it over to Malig, where there's a ferry boat that goes over there. And see the ferry boat down there. And I said, you run to the ticket office. I'm going to run in here and see if this ferry boat captain is going to leave. He goes, okay. So I walked down there and I said, can we still get a ticket to get over to Knoydart? He said, where are you boys from? I said, Tennessee. He goes, I figured that. Where in Tennessee? I said, Knoxville. I thought there's no way this guy knows where Knoxville is. He goes, Nathan Johnson's a friend of mine, the manager at the Jigging Reel in Knoxville. He said, get your tickets and come on.
Really?
So I'm like, holy moly. So we get our ticket, we get down there and everything, and we get on the ferry boat. And I say a ferry boat, it looks like a 20-foot Bayliner with 12 seats in it. So we're just making our way across there. And he turns around. He says, boys, where are you staying? We're like, we don't know. We don't have any plans or anything booked. He goes, oh, for God's sake. He said, you think you're just going to show up in the Knoydart and find a place to stay? He's like, what we were kind of hoping. He goes, oh, it doesn't work that way here. Hang on. So he gets on his phone, talking in Gaelic. He says, boys, there's nowhere for you to stay, so you're staying at my house. We're like, okay. Make a long story short, this guy lived in an old church. It was built like the 1600s.
Yeah.
That's right on the coast. And we were getting this old Land Rover Defender and drive, 20 miles out to where this guy lives. And, it's incredible. This guy, he puts us up, and all that. He says, boys, I want to make us some pizzas. He says, there's scotch under the cabinet. He said, help yourself. He said, there's beers in the fridge. He said, I'll get on supper and then we'll have us a meal. Then we'll go back down to the pub.
This is just like every fantasy novel I've ever read. Then we're going to do some magic. That's what I was waiting for.
It was like a fantasy.
Woo,
it was.
Yeah.
I was like, look what we've stumbled into here.
Yeah.
And, we of course did that, hung out, went down to the pub, and there was all local people there, and they were just happy as they could be to interact with a couple Americans, So and it was good. We went back to the guy's house, and he said, boys, he goes, I got to work in the morning. He said, but when you get ready to leave, he said, the door will be unlocked. He said, I don't ever lock it here on the Knoydart. He said, if it's raining, take rain jackets and boots and just leave them somewhere. I'll get them later. And so next morning we got up, walked back to town with a little bit of a headache, dehydration, and
he didn't have one.
No, not a Scotsman who's a ferry boat captain. No. So it was a great experience.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
Well, I've told everybody, I've told lots of people when they talk about, especially the ones who say, "Oh, I don't know if I'll," the media paints such a narrative that the world is this scary, terrible, terrifying, frightful place. And I've met a lot more good people out there than I have the bad, And I mean, I'm not saying there's not the bad ones out there, but I've been, I was going through LAX one day and I hear, Mike McGill. I'm like, what the fuck?
Worldwide, buddy.
Worldwide. I'm dressed like I would anytime. I got overalls on, Right. And I turn around and this guy's come walking down through here. He goes, I'm a big fan. I was like, what? Yeah, I'm a big fan. I watched, I've downloaded your albums and the blah, 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 and the Barstool Romeos and this and that. And I seen you perform one time in so-and-so. And it's like, holy cow.
He just recognized you at LAX?
Well, I guess I was the only fat bearded man with a pair of overalls on coming through LAX.
It is a small world.
Yeah, it really is.
Man.
What did this remote tavern that y'all visited, or pub that y'all visited?
It's called the Old Forge, and it is the most remote pub in the UK, on the UK mainland. And
remote from what, people or?
To get to it, you have to either take a ferry boat ride, or there's about 14-mile hike across part of the Highlands to get to.
Why didn't you do that, Everest?
Had to get back to work eventually. So. But yeah, man, and it was fantastic.
Was it touristy up, or was it?
There were tourists there, but most of the tourists there, they were from London. There weren't many people from out of the country that were there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's crazy, man. We I like going to dives. When we're out traveling, like there was a great Claremont Lounge story in Atlanta. I was helping Robbie one year. So there was a few years there. I was playing a whole lot, but on the weeks I was getting a little burnt out, and Rob had that concession business and was like, hey, why don't you come and help me? And you can plan your year in February because I'll have all the dates that we're going to work. And I was like, well, that's not a bad idea. Right. That'd be a break. I'll have fun doing that, and he'll put me back here on the flat grill or the fryers or something. Sure. I don't have to mess around with too many people. And you get probably 2 meals out of the deal. Oh yeah, you get 2 meals out of the deal, but
which is $30 now.
Yeah. But, we had met this guy at some show we had been doing, and he wanted us to come to Shelbyville. And if you don't know anything about Shelbyville, it's pretty much here in Tennessee. It's like Louisville. It's horse country.
The Walking Horse Festival and all that.
And this is what this was going to be, some big horse festival, and he needed food. And, and when we went in, we'd set up a 30-foot kitchen and have everything. And, it started raining, and it turned out to be a bust. Well, this was back, I can't remember what year this was, but it was when the Royals and the Orioles were they had made it to the playoffs, and Royals went on, won the World Series that year.
So that would have been 81.
No. It was in the 2000s.
Oh, the newer.
Yeah.
God, I don't know.
Anyway, it was probably 14, 15. I don't know. Look it up. But we got done and we packed everything up early and we had a hotel. And I said, man, let's just go find a beer joint and just have some beers and, maybe they'll have the ball game on.
Right.
We can watch the game and just, it's a bus.
Hang out.
be over it. And we were wet, them sloshing around that shit, We get to this place, and it looked kind of like an Applebee's, but a mom and pop had bought it out,
Right,
it used to be an Applebee's or some chain restaurant,
Yeah, good.
And we get in there, and I said, I asked the bartender, I said, hey, you turn the baseball game on. We don't get those channels. And I was just like, son of a bitch. I mean, it's like somebody told me my dog had died, it was just so disappointing and disheartening, And we got over there, and I told Robbie, I said, man, I'm going to go outside and have a smoke. I said, I'll see if I can find a local and ask them if there's another place, more our style we can go. Right. And I get out there, and there's this old honky tonk queen standing there, and she's getting ready to get smokes, one of them Kent 150s, about that. It looked like looked like a gutter and nail. It's about 3 foot long. And of course, I was Johnny on the spot with the lighter. So pretty girls never light their own cigarettes,
Well, you got to help people.
Oh, thank you, honey. I said, hey, tell me. I said, is there a damn beer joint around here we can go to? I said, nothing like this. She goes, you want to go to the Hideaway? I said, yes, I do. And I said, can you tell me how to get there? And I was probably listening maybe about 17%. I wasn't listening much. And she said, yeah, you do this, you do that. And I said, okay, I got it. And I went back in. I said, hey, man, the Hideaway. That's where we need to go. So we ate our dinner, and we paid up and went out. We drove around for freaking ever. And couldn't find this place. And Robbie finally was like, listen, it's got to be up this road. And I said, but that's going into a neighborhood. I was like, you can't be in there. Well, I'm turning up through there. It's the only place we ain't went.
Right.
We pull up through there, and there's a double wide trailer with a sign that says a Hideaway. We get in there, and it's plywood floors, plywood walls.
You knew you was in your spot.
I was home.
Yeah.
We get in there, and the lady's got, she was one of them, the lady that owned the bar. And this is where that term barmaid comes from. She was a barmaid, and it looked like she hadn't missed a Friday to get her hair done in 37 years. You know what I mean? It was just so.
Not a hair out of place.
No, not nowhere.
Whole can of Aquanet.
Yeah. And they had 2 old mustard yellow refrigerators back there. That was where they kept their beer. They just turned around, got them out of the fridge, and handed them to you.
Yeah.
So I went to the jukebox, which was surprising because they had this fancy ass internet, the smart jukebox, Well, I just dropped a 20 and just played. I played Fair and Young. I played Ernest Tubb. I played every old thing I could think of that was good, but old, really old. 50s, and I came back up there and sat down, and she says, she walked over to me and she said, are you the one that played all that music? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she just put a $10 bill down there and said, go play some more. You're picking the good stuff. I said, all right. So I went back over there and picked out a bunch of more old shit, Right. And when we first walked in there, people were just kind of looking at us like, UFO just landed. They didn't.
I ain't seen them guys.
Yeah, who are they? They don't live around here.
All those people lived there. They lived in their place.
Yeah, they probably
I get my
do.
mail at the Hideaway.
So we get back up there, and I asked her. I said, "Is there any chance that you could turn the ball game on?" And the only thing, the TV they had was a 19-inch GE
rabbit ears.
Aluminum foil on them.
Oh, probably. I mean, they had to have the converter box, to pick everything up because it was an old solid state.
Oh, yeah.
Like you had in your bedroom.
Right.
And sitting on that beer fridge, and she flipped it over there, and there it was. And we sat there and got drunker and Cooter Brown and watched the ball game.
Best ball game you ever watched.
It was the best ever.
And where's the hideaway?
In Shelbyville.
Oh, that's right.
Tennessee.
Shelbyville's kind of in a place where it ain't real easy to get to either.
You have to want to get there.
Yeah, it is weird.
It's
So we ran across a buddy of ours that knew you, Jay Clark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jay was here and was talking about
on last week's episode.
Yeah,
Jay.
And we said, well, Jeff's coming. And he said, well, be sure and tell him I said, hey. He said, Jeff was always good to us. And
Jay's a good fella.
And helped us,
Yeah, good guy for sure.
Yeah. What? So Jamie probably knows all this, but I don't. Were you just always in the woods as a kid? Were you an outdoors person? Is that what got you?
I loved it. I loved being outside. That was my thing, and going out and fishing. Me and Jamie spent a lot of, there was one summer in high school. We fished every day. Every single day that we were out for school that summer. I mean, we didn't miss a Saturday. We didn't miss a Sunday. It didn't matter if it rained. We fished every single day. So spent a lot of time on the river growing up, a lot of time together, fishing, a lot of time together hunting. And man, I just really enjoyed that. You hear the old adage, if you do, for a living what you like, you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
Well,
which is bullshit.
That's not exactly true.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Not exactly how it happens.
If you do what you love for work, you'll hate it in a year. Right? That's closer to the truth.
Somebody asked me the other day, what are you doing? I said, nothing. And I ain't quite done. So you were fisherman, hunter.
Yeah.
Was your family into that, or you just kind of teach yourself or learn on your own? Or
uncles were, and spent a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
Jamie's dad especially spent a lot of time with him, fishing and hunting and stuff like that growing up. And I just really liked it. And I said, this is what I think I want to do for a living. And I got over to UT the first week that I was there. And, man, I met people that was just exactly like I was. That's what they like to do.
Right.
They like being outside. That's what their field of study was. And that's really found my niche over there.
Did that feel like the furthest thing like that you would ever find that group of people you could fit in with, when you were that age?
That's exactly right. When you're 18 years old and you go and, not everybody hunts and fishes, not everybody does that. But when you go into a group and they're all like that, you're like, this is my people.
Yeah.
And of course, met Jay while I was in school, and we spent a lot of time together. Because in that major at school, everybody is really close knit. There's people that I graduated with that I ended up working 25 years with them, because it's a very small group and it's a very tight knit community. And,
Did you know any of the forestry people?
I did. Sure did.
Did you know Dave Griffin?
That one doesn't ring a bell.
He's big buddies with Jay. He's an older fella.
Okay.
But he was a kind of a lifer. He was in the forestry there. And Dave was a great guy. I haven't seen him in many years, but he was definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, I understand.
I remember going to Dave's house the first time, and he lived up in Wallen, up off of, and I guess I don't remember how. I'm probably telling this wrong, so I won't get too far into it, but I guess he knew somebody, or he squatted a piece of property way back, like, years and years and years ago, and wound up with that piece of property, however it happened.
Right.
But I just remember going to Dave's house, and he had and this was in this was in the early 2000s, late 90s, and he still had a wood cook stove and fireplace and heaters, and had his water plumbed in off the mountain.
Right.
I mean, and had rows of firewood from here to damn Shacktown. Right. I mean, just always chopping wood, and being prepared, for winter and blah, blah, blah. And outhouse, went down the creek, took his shower every morning. I mean, this guy was the real deal.
Right.
But at any rate, it just, all those days, I met so many people when I met Jay in the music end of things that really shaped me.
Right.
And a lot of friendships that I still have to this day, 20-something years later, So you, how long did that take you? Just your regular 4-year deal?
It was pretty much 4 years. And when I went, I guess I was about 16 years old when I said, I want to be a game warden for my job.
Tell them what it was before that.
I had a couple different career options. I thought
we talked about this yesterday. So when we met when we were 5.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've been.
I'm so sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, that means we've been friends for 15 years.
Yeah. That's right. 15 years ago when we met in kindergarten.
You need another beer?
I'm good. Thank you, though.
We met in some special class. I don't know if it was why we were special necessarily. But what was what he wanted to do. So we spent, he lived at my house as much as I did, really. And his first career choice, is it this ironic? This is ironic. His first career choice, I want to drive a big rig. So you
got to remember that was the 70s too. I mean, CB radio,
absolutely.
BJ and the Bear. I knew you were going to bring up BJ and the Bear, buddy.
Truck drivers wasn't running around in fucking sweatpants and open-toed shoes.
Exactly right.
That pisses me off every time a truck driver pulls up in my work.
You go to
them some bitches get out in sweatpants and slides, sandals, and I'm just like, you ain't no damn truck driver.
There should be a piece of snake skin around your waist and a pair of boots.
You know why they're doing that, though? Because they're driving automatics. They're not shifting.
Yeah.
A lot of them, about, it's easier to.
I'll tell you where they can go.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, not any more than I can.
Just like you, Jeremiah.
Listen, here's Jamie's public service announcement. I'm in the trucking business. Don't. So, truck driver. I want to have an 18. I remember this talk. I want to have an 18 speed. I can shift it,
Whatever 6-year-old.
And he had an 8-track. He had an 8-track with like Convoy on there and
Line Fever.
Looking at the world through a windshield and things like that. So he just
good ones.
He wore that thing out. And then
Big Pen, this here's a rubber duck.
And then, somehow. Now, if truck driver, his next career choice was, he said, I think I've decided that I'm going to be an astronaut.
They both move pieces of heavy equipment long distance.
They do. I can see the similarities there,
exactly
both driving a big rig.
Well, when you decided to do the game warden thing, did you get some direction from high school? I mean, were
really.
You kind of on your?
Not really.
I tell people that all the time.
What?
Just about the way guidance counselors are now versus when we were in school. You didn't. I mean, if you said somebody you wanted to do communications, well, first of all, we wouldn't have known. I want to be a sportscaster.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a 5-year-old kid who would want to be on TV or something like that. I don't know if we would have ever got the guidance in which lane to get in to be able to get that. So I was always curious about with you as well, because were you all the same grade?
Pretty much.
Yeah. For the most, yeah.
But that was my experience in school.
Don't get much guidance back in the day.
Yeah. Everybody's thinking right now, watching, they're like, one of them got held back. That's what they're thinking. That's what they're thinking.
I told you not to say that.
I told you. We were all secretive about it. We're like, yeah, something like that. Something like that. Oh my goodness, boy.
So you get to UT, you meet all these
people that are just, exactly like you. Yeah. Spent a lot of time doing extracurricular stuff.
I'm sure.
Did a lot of stuff where you're checking in deer checking stations and, going and aging deer, and sometimes in the wintertime going up in the park and helping the grad students, checking bears and their
getting water samples,
out of the park, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I said, man, I not only want to work as a game warden, but I want to work in Granger County. That was where I wanted to end up, where I wanted to work at. I had my heart set on working there.
Why?
Because it was close to home, and I had a lot of knowledge about Granger County.
Familiar with,
very familiar with it.
Ed, we went to Carter High School, all of us. Golly, I'm going hunting in Granger County. How many times do we hear that? Granger County was the mecca for deer hunting.
That's true.
For us.
That's true.
Well, that is true.
Everybody's
like, where'd you get that? Granger County.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I guess the things you take in when you're a kid, they hang with you. That's for sure.
Yeah, you reckon? Jeez.
Oh, man. So, that was my career goal, was to end up working in Granger County as a game warden.
Right.
So, and when I was in school, I was like, there's a lot of other people here who are getting the same degree I am. So what am I going to do to make myself different as far as hiring goes? So I started, working back in the day as a part-time deputy sheriff, and then ended up going to work for a local police department around here, and did that for a while, until I was able to finally get hired on with the state. And it turns out I loved the time I was worked as a police officer. It was really, really good experience that I really enjoyed.
Now, how old were you then?
21, 22, something like that, somewhere in that age range. I guess I was about 24 when I went to work.
Now, were you Mr. Straight Arrow Gennaro? You could fart and blow the rule book open to page 37, Article A, section, subheading.
I never wanted anybody to get one over on me as far as the law. Right. So I spent a lot of time studying it. That's for sure. So,
right. Well, we're going to have to ask Jeff to leave now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm retired
for
now.
The record, Jeff is retired. We be in handcuffs.
Yeah, I could have had him over. I'd been nervous wreck. I mean, kind of delinquent I am.
So one of my best Jeff Webb memories, and one of my first, well, not my first memories, but that goes along with this wildlife thing, sort of. So our elementary school was walking distance to Jeff's house. And we were in 5th grade. And this teacher we had, God rest her soul, we hated her. Especially, he really hated her. But it was a regular morning, and
he probably put her in jail.
They probably did.
They'd send her back.
Yeah.
That's good.
So it's mid-morning before lunchtime, and there's this or maybe early morning, really. There's this smell of onions. It's so strong, almost like ramps. It's just in your face. And she starts trailing it down like a bloodhound. All the way going around. And finally, she lands at Jeff's desk. And Jeff had decided on the way in that morning that he was going to pick a bunch of wild onions and have them for breakfast.
Well, yeah.
And we laughed about it or whatever. I mean, there was nothing she could do about it, but That I knew then.
Kids have got to eat.
Outdoorsman. Outdoorsman. I got to sit home for eat.
Oh, Lordy. Well, how long did it take you to get to your dream position?
I'd say it
did
worked
you have
out,
to
jockey around and stuff like that. I got pretty fortunate. While I was working as a police officer, I also worked part-time for TWRA as a boating officer and did that as well. And when I got hired on full-time, I got sent to Hancock County, which if you've ever been to Sneedville, it is a pretty remote place. It's absolutely beautiful. It is a great place to be a brand new game warden. Because, I mean,
home in Jimmy Martin.
They like to violate up there.
Yeah.
I am Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, that's right.
Fuck him. God damn. That racist piece of shit.
Chair throwing motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Sneedville, boy.
Oh, it's
there's some places in there they don't get to see the sunshine.
No, it was a great place to work. And I remember, thinking, well, I've heard this place is really good for spotlight and people spotlight deer. And there's a lot of it that goes on. And first night I ever worked up there by myself, I went up and found a spot where there was some winter wheat. And I thought there'll be deer in this field later on tonight. Went and found a little hidey hole, kind of backed in, in front of a gate, had blacked out my truck and everything. And it was about 15 minutes later, this guy comes down the road, shining the Q-beam right out the window and did a head-on stop. Of course, he starts unloading the gun right away. And I was like, man, I thought this was supposed to be hard catching these people. I was like, it took about 15 minutes, but it was a great place to work as far as people.
Was you there about a year and a half?
I worked there a little over a year, and then Granger County opened up, and I said, man, I'm transferring. And I did. And I spent a lot of time, most of my career as far as an assignment in Granger County. And I loved it. It was great.
I guess you had Cherokee Lake.
Had Cherokee, and a lot of people don't know it, but there's a bit of Norris Lake that's in Granger County as well on the other side of the mountain too.
Right.
So you got two big bodies of water with a mountain right down in the middle. It's a great place to work.
Yeah. Was there ever I'm sure there had to be, but was there ever a close call or a scary moment or something that may woke you up or to say like, I don't know.
It's just, people ask me that kind of stuff all the time. They're like, man, what's the craziest thing that you ever saw? And I was like, man, I could write a book. I mean, cause just crazy stuff. It's like everything from a woman with two heads having a baby to,
two heads.
Yeah. Saw that. And I'll tell you that when you're just
golly
to, people trying to, run you over with a car and then crashing their vehicle. I mean, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you've seen it on cops, it's
that's why you ask.
Yeah.
Or why? I mean, I just, there would be parts of that job, because you do carry.
Oh yeah.
Even more authority.
It's
in some instances.
Yeah.
Is that
that's
fair?
a fair assumption. And the fact that, you're first and foremost, you're a peace officer of the state of Tennessee. Your job is to go and detect violations of the law, arrest or cite those people, and bring those findings to a court.
Of any violations of any law.
That's true.
Not just wildlife.
That's right. Yeah. Whether it's, somebody driving down the road, it's an impairment to the public or whatever. It's, you're a peace officer first and foremost, but with a concentration on natural resources enforcement.
Right.
So, we had one night and we were looking for this guy that we thought was supposed to be, coon hunting out of season. We had just a description of his truck. So we go up into the lower part of Granger County, me and a partner of mine that night, Jeff Pierce is his name. And man, that was a great partner.
I'll tell you a story about him here in a minute.
Him and Jay was pretty good friends. Well, anyway,
Jay knows this story too.
me and Pierce was up there looking around, and all of a sudden we come around this curve and we see this truck and it's shining its headlights at us. And I can't really make the truck out, but all of a sudden the truck just guns it and tries to ram into us head on. I grab the wheel, take the truck over in the ditch, and I was like, well, he's not going to get away with that.
Right.
So we turn around, and take off chasing him, and we.
He didn't have 3 cartoons in his truck, did he? We're going to ram them. That's all I can think of. Is that
we're going to ram
from Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's I went. That's where I went with that. Go ahead. Sorry.
So we chased this guy out of Granger County and into Knox County, and this truck that I had at the time, it was pretty rough. And I remember going around the corner, it started spitting and sputtering. I was like, we're going to lose him. And all of a sudden, it caught back up, and we're chasing him again, and in these curves and go around a corner. Next thing I know, I see his truck just going off into a ravine. And I was like,
oh no,
one way or the other, we're going to get him. So we stop and jump out and get out down there. And the truck that the guy's in has kind of wedged itself up against some saplings and is about ready to turn over. Well, this guy's crawling out of there. Of course, we put, we're like, are you okay? Guy jumps out and he starts throwing punches, ready to fight.
Wow.
So me and Pierce, we end up placing the guy in custody underneath of a truck that's about ready to topple over onto all 3 of us. And we're like, man, this is something you'd see in a magazine or something. But yeah, that was, one of those good sketchy ones,
Well, that coon hunting violations is worth risking your life over.
Well, it turns out it wasn't anything to do with that at all. The guy was just, completely out of his mind on drugs and just, hey, there's somebody right there. I'm going to hit him.
I'm going to ram him.
I'm going to ram him.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
we, so I took my daughter and my dad fishing one day up on George's Creek.
Yeah, I know it well.
And I had a 20-foot canoe or something like that, and I wasn't aware, that we had put in there and it went under the underpass and all that backwater back there, and Lord, we caught I don't know how many crappie just catching them right and left. And of course, tickled my dad and my daughter, and
that's good.
And we came back through, and your buddy Pierce was up there, and he said, "Did you have any luck today?" And I said, "Yeah, we caught quite a few. We caught our limit. I knew I at least was studious enough to know, not to be over and short fish and, and I said, we caught a limit. I said, each one of us probably could have caught a limit. And I said, but we just caught one limit of fish. We're going to take them home, and clean them up and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, them those fish look short. And I said, well, they're not. I said, but I said, what do we do now? Because I've never spoke to a game warden.
Right.
All the years I've been out fishing or hunting, I didn't know what the
protocol was.
Right. I didn't. Well, I knew the size limit and all that stuff, but I didn't know the protocol of, okay, he's going to check them.
Right.
So I guess he kind of took it that I was being a little short with him, and he got real short with me. Well, how do you know they're 15 inch or 10 inch or whatever it was? And I said, well, he said, you using a belly board? And I said, I looked at that canoe and us, and I was like, do you think for a second I've got a damn belly board? I said, I cut me a stick with a framing square at 10 inches. And I said, if his lips hang off that side and his ass hang off that side, I said, I figured it's legal. Well, it'll measure short. And I said, well, sir, I said, I'm not trying to be a smart ass. I said, but what do you do? I mean,
right.
What do we do?
That's right.
We can sit here and argue all day. Right. I know they're not. You say they are. What's next? And so he got them all out, measured every one of them. Of course, they all measured fine.
Oh, yeah.
But for good measure, he looked and he seen that I was a life jacket short in a canoe. Well, I never thought you have to have, we're going up a flooded farm.
Right.
And it dumb on my part.
Right.
And he said, well, I got to write you a ticket. I said, for what? I said, the fish oil measure. He said, well, you're one life jacket short. I said, you got to be kidding me, man. He goes, no, I got to. I said, all right, whatever. That's fine. So he wrote it. I went the next day, or within the next 2 days, because that was either on a Saturday or Sunday. I went the next day and paid it in Blount County. Fast forward about 6 months. You ready?
I'm ready.
Have I told this one on the air yet?
I don't know if it's on the air or not.
Okay. So fast forward about 6 months, I'm remodeling this house up here. And I'd played music that morning in Gatlinburg, came back in, worked all day here after I got off. And I told Dad, I said, I'm going over to Cardin's. I said, I'm going to go get me some food. And I said, I'm going to fill my truck up. I got to work tomorrow morning. I had a gig somewhere up in North Carolina or something. I said, so I'm going to be ready to go. Do you want anything? No, honey, I'm good. So I take off through Mascot Woods, getting over to Asheville Highway. And as soon as I cross the railroad tracks, this police car pulls in behind me. And I went, whatever. I wasn't doing nothing wrong. I didn't have a half smoked joint in the ashtray or nothing. I was clean. So I got over the highway, and there, you don't just go. If you grew up around here and seen as many wrecks there, even if it's a green light, I'm always going to look at that intersection because we've seen too many accidents. Well, as I'm looking, I crossed the white line on my right side and I'm turning. Blue lights, pulls me over, comes up. He said, you're all over the road. And I said, well, I don't think so, but you were behind me. I wasn't behind myself. Right. So, and I dropped a couple names thinking, maybe this guy, guys that because I didn't do nothing wrong.
Right.
Okay. I went over the inside white line, but I'm watching to see if I'm going to get T-boned at that big intersection there on the highway, He's gone and he's gone and he's gone and he's gone and he's gone. And finally, I see his car door open and he's come back with his hand on his pistol. And I'm like, well, shit, what's going on here? We
went there.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, ram him. No, I don't know I'm like, this is weird, man, because I've always been respectful.
Right.
And he walks up to the door and he's like, put your hands on the wheel where I can see them. Slowly exit the vehicle where I can keep everything in plain sight. And I'm doing everything he's asking me to do, but I'm asking him also, I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
I don't understand. That's not important right now, and he gets me and bam, puts me on the hood, cuffs me. And he's like, I was like, what in the world are you doing?
I was just going to Cardin's.
Yeah. I was getting a damn milkshake and a cheeseburger, dude. He goes, you got a warrant. And I said, what? I said, yeah. I said, I've never even gotten a speeding ticket in my life. I've been grandpa since I got a speeding ticket one time when I was 16.
That was it.
That's it.
Right.
I didn't ever want no heat on me, dude.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I said, well, what is it for? And he said, I can't tell you that. And I said, well, why? Is it top secret? I mean, you've got my face buried in the hood of my truck. I've not resisted. I've done everything you've asked me to do. Surely you can tell me what's going on so I'll have an idea. I said, I don't understand. And he said, it's out of Blount County, so I can't tell you. And I thought, Blount County. And I said, sir, if you'll allow me, or if you're welcome to do it too. I said, over my sun visor. And I still had it up there. Right. I don't know why I even kept it. Right. Thank God I did.
Yeah.
I said, if you'll just reach over my driver's side sun visor, I said, you'll find a ticket that I was written by a game warden. And I said, it's got the receipt stapled to it where I paid this ticket. I said, that's the only thing that it could be. Mm-hmm. You're going to jail. And that was it. Well, I finally sweet talked him enough to let me. I said, well, at least let me call my brother to come get my truck. There's no reason to impound my truck.
Right.
So he let me do that, which that saved me quite a bit of money.
Did he search a vehicle too?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
warrant that you search.
Yeah. And thank God, like I said, they wasn't a roach laying in the floorboard or under the, I mean, you know.
Especially then.
Yeah, especially then. And he hauled my ass back to Maloneyville and came through here 100 fucking miles an hour and about hit a lady that was walking up the side of Mascot Road and called in on her and said she was out in the middle of the road. I can't remember this guy's name anyway. But we pulled in, and when we pulled in, all of the guys that came out was like, damn, you're trying to set a new record for so many arrests in a day or something, ain't you? Kowalski or whatever his fucking name was, you know? And he goes, well, let's get this one. Let's get him in and get him processed. I'm off in 20 minutes or something like that. And he never put me in a seatbelt. So he's flying ass and I'm just rolling all over the back of that seat with my hands cuffed.
It's quitting time.
Got to go. It's Miller time.
Punch out.
Yeah. So anyway, I get over there, get put in holding. Blount County comes and gets me. Right. Takes me. And the people, it was funny. The people here were like, what is a PFD violation? Nobody knew what the fuck it was.
Right.
And I didn't know that it was written up like that. Right. And when they asked me, I was just, I mean, you can imagine how excited I was to tell them what the fuck
what
it was.
What are you in for, buddy?
Yeah.
Armed robbery with
PFD.
Yeah, really? Yeah. It's so bad you ain't even heard of it.
I don't even know what I'm here for.
So they get me all the way back to Blount County, process me, put me in the deal. And the jailer comes up finally after, you know, how many ever hours you're there. Oh, yeah. And he comes up and he says, McGill. I go to the door, you know, and he's like, what's a PFD violation? Still didn't know. None of them fucking knew. And I wasn't no way in hell. I was in the tank. Right. I wasn't no way in hell I was going to tell him, personal flotation device, sir. I done told it.
Had you figured it out though by then?
Yeah, well, yeah. And
damn acronym.
Yeah.
What are we going to call this one? PFD.
So, because when I went in there, one of the guys, because I was in flip flops and shorts, t-shirt, I'd worked my ass off up here. And one of the guys in there said, damn, they look like they drug you out of the bed. He said, what the hell did you do? And I said, you don't want to fucking know, man. I said, I'm going to sleep. Don't you some bitches bother me. I just went over there and laid down and went to sleep. But at any rate, finally, They pull me out. Print me. They're booking me.
Oh, yeah.
You know. And the guy, there was an older fella who was the, I guess he's what would he be called? The
jail sergeant.
Yeah. And he's pretty shitty, you know, attitude. He's going to show me.
Right.
And he said something, you know, and I said, you don't even know what the fuck a PFD means. I said, ain't none of you people here know what it means. I said, I'll have to tell you. And I said, I'll guarantee you this. I said, it's, you know, I said, I'm wrongfully here.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to report every damn one of you sons of bitches.
Right.
You know, well, that didn't win me no favors, but it didn't hurt me none either. No. Thank goodness. And I might not have said it exactly, but I was very a matter of fact. And, but at any rate, I called my mom or I called my brother because he's the one who come got my truck. And I said, you ain't going to believe this shit. I said, you know, when I took Dad and Hannah, yeah. I said, that's what it's for. I said, that guy wrote me that ticket. And I said, I paid it. I said, I've got the receipt over the visor of my truck. He said, well, I'll bring it with me. We're on our way to come and get you. I said, okay. And so I lost a day of work.
Right.
You know, all this stuff. And then finally got before the judge up there at Blunt. And he told me, he said, you need to seek private counsel for this matter. And I was like, so you're telling me, he said, young man, I'm telling you to seek private counsel for this matter. He said, this will be expunged.
This clerical error that has occurred. Yeah.
But PFD violation. Yeah. Buddy, can't put enough of them son of bitches in prison.
Pretty fancy deal. Yeah. Sounds like a Haggard song.
It does, don't it? I'm telling you what, I've got more mileage out of that.
I guarantee it.
But, and I asked Jay, because they were all aggravating me about it, you know?
Right.
And I asked Jay, I said, about y'all's buddy.
Right.
And, of course, you know how serious Jay can get sometimes. He'd appeal. And he's thinking, you know, because he don't want to say you know, and I'm fine. I said, dude, he's just doing his job. I said, it ain't no big deal.
And what's crazy is I
said, but some bitch got me thrown in jail. And I said, I may whip your ass for it. Hey, now, listen.
Oh, that's good. Man, alive. No, I hadn't heard that one.
I know 2 people now that have gone to jail for that same thing.
Really?
Yeah, my former business partner's wife.
Oh, really? Larkin?
No.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that was blatant contempt, wasn't it?
They just didn't show up for court.
Yeah.
But still, they both went to jail for.
That's true. It definitely sounds like Mike was definitely a clerical error that screwed him over pretty big time.
Yeah, it was definitely a clerical error, but I couldn't believe that judge had, you know,
he threw you a bone there.
Yeah. You know, of course, I mean, time you've got more lawyers
trouble and expenses.
It would have been, you know, you wouldn't you'd probably wound up owing them more money. You know, for it because there wasn't enough.
Right.
Wasn't enough damages on your end.
Damages or pain and suffering or time missed or anything like that. Right. But I was fine with. I didn't want nothing. I just didn't want to be.
And of course, nobody is at fault except for the person that didn't input because all the officers were in the right, you know, technically.
Yeah.
I
mean, I was.
You don't have any option.
It's a law. You know, so I didn't.
If you pull over somebody with a warrant, you have to take them. Correct?
Yeah, it says you read what a warrant says, and it says you shall bring this person. It's not. Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's like this is an order issued by a judge, is what it is.
Yeah,
just like if somebody fails to, you know, regard a citation, and the judge issues a warrant for contempt of court or failure to appear. You know, it's saying bring this person because they have, you know, violated order of the court.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
we,
so if you get a speeding ticket,
pay it or tackle it,
or you better take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in your instance, but
yeah. No, we went that next, like I said, it was in a couple of days.
Right.
A lot of times I'd drive back through, well, especially during the summertime if I had Hannah with me, because I could take her to work.
Come back through towns.
And I could come back through towns and not have to sit in traffic.
Right.
Just, or do something over there.
Right. I have to say, as far as life jackets and stuff like that, it's like you see it, a lot of people see it as a pretty minor thing. And it is, a misdemeanor. It's a pretty minor thing. But working boating accidents was one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing in my job. And I mean, there is no more empty feeling than going to somebody's door and knocking on it and telling their loved one, that they're not coming home because they were killed in a boating accident. And that was something that, or
they can't find them.
Or they can't. I've had that happen too, And I mean, that's a really empty feeling,
And happens.
No,
it's not an infrequent necessarily.
No, it happens all the time.
Every year.
Yeah, all the time. I don't know what the number of fatalities is in Tennessee already this year, but I give several death notifications during my time with the state. And I mean, I remember every single one of them. I'll never forget it. So
that has to be a rough one.
It is. And you never forget what the people look like. I remember what the colors of the couch looked like when I'd sit down you never forget it, Yeah. So why are they strict on stuff like that? It's because, man, there's not a quota it doesn't exist. It's, truly to save people.
Well, and of course we've all spent a lifetime literally on the water, fishing and doing all that stuff. And here's the thing about life jackets, for example, you don't have to wear them unless the boat's moving.
If you're under 13, you have to wear it.
But as an adult,
you don't have to wear it, And,
if you're below the dam, don't you have to wear it? Yeah,
below the dam a certain distance.
And when the boat's...
Even when it's in motion, if you're over the age of 13, you don't have to.
That's right.
But we tell people, man, I can tell you this, I will not get on a boat now without having a life jacket on.
Even we did it all the time.
And we did it all the time back then as a kid. Didn't think nothing about it, but
you just don't realize it.
And you said without having it on.
Yeah.
Not just having it aboard.
Yeah.
I've never been in a boat with my daddy and him not wear his.
That's
ever.
Right. I've never been with your dad and him not have a life jacket.
No, he won't. Well, Dad's not a strong swimmer, but realistically, it doesn't matter if you're getting hit in the head or something, knocked out, you're dead.
Well, Dad worked with an old boy at KUB many years ago that had, had one of those first, one of the first times I ever seen a 200 outboard, so it was back in that era and, Norse craft. 21 footer and he fished everywhere and he went to Okeechobee several times through the year and would fish down there and he hit an alligator and it ripped the entire transom and everything out of the boat and of course through him and
with the alligators
and thank God he had a life jacket on and he didn't suffer some kind of massive head trauma from the impact, but you don't
have any idea.
You never know.
I saw some guys one time that came to Cherokee to go fish, never been on Cherokee Lake in their life, came down from West Virginia, I think it was, put their boat in right there near German Creek and decided, man, it's almost dark. Let's just go. And they take off and they don't make it 200 yards and pile it up on a big bunch of rocks. And I was like, guys, how much time you spend on this lake? Well, about 17 seconds.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you have no idea what's under that water.
We was out in the middle. Sorry. We was out in the middle.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And
not on Cherokee. That don't mean nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Especially at night.
I don't run Cherokee.
Don't run Cherokee at night.
Well, you think about the river too.
Oh, yeah.
People running up the river and they think because they're out in the middle that it's going to be, shit, no.
No.
Better be watching the bank.
And if they had been there, it'd been different.
That's
like
right.
I'll run the river at night, but I know it like the back of my hands.
That's right.
But that stretch, over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you run up to Interstate Bridge at Asheville Highway, you're walking.
That's right
through there. You can't even get a boat at most times.
I had that happen one night too. It was a guy, UT student, had two girls, two co-eds with him, and got dad's boat out and said, man, I'm going to press these girls how much I know. Took off down at UT right there above the waterfront, just wide open up the Holston River. Of course, made it about to the interstate show and piled it up right there.
Probably when he'd been on a year right there below Boyd's Bridge is shallow too.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So yeah, I mean, people
they don't think
yeah, that's it. Well, Dad had a friend, who's passed on now that fished all the time. And he was, those bass fishermen, they ain't got 200 horsepower to idle around.
Yeah.
Or now 300 horses, whatever.
What was that one you said you seen?
450s on the back of the boat.
Almighty.
I think.
Could you imagine?
That's a bit much.
I mean, it was a big boat, but it wasn't a huge boat.
Right.
It was one of those center console jobs, ocean jobs. But anyway, that's strong. I looked them up. They're $65,000 a piece is how much those were. So $250,000 in motors.
God
anyway,
almighty.
They don't use much fuel though.
Oh yeah, yeah. They run a PVC pipe for the fuel line to those things.
You hear the dollars going down the fuel.
Yeah, you just see it go.
You squeeze the bulb, and it's $20 a squeeze.
Yeah.
But he was running about 60 or 70 miles an hour and hit a great blue heron head on, buddy. Boom.
Ooh.
It might not have been going that fast, but it was working up to that fast.
Right.
And yeah. And he stayed in the boat, didn't knock him out or nothing, but it could have. Yeah.
Well, you just don't know. You really just don't know how lucky you've been.
That's right.
Or how blessed you've been when you start. If you really, and not on a public forum, but if you just really start thinking back at little things that if they went this way versus that way, same way with you and in your career, one thing could have been the difference that night of being a sketchy moment and a not talking to you moment.
Right. That's right.
Just or one, I should probably check that.
That's right. If that sixth sense is telling you something, you better listen to it.
Yeah, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be
pay attention.
It's too late.
Yep.
I try to do that more and more. I've noticed myself as I've gotten older, especially when I'm out doing things, or if I'm by myself doing something.
You like cutting down a tree.
Well, that too.
Cutting a tree or bush hogging by yourself.
He liked to kill himself. He liked to kill himself with a tree one time.
Back up and look at this.
Don't fell big trees by yourself. It's a good way to end up hurt.
I remember back when they still let y'all do ride-alongs.
Yeah.
And a tense moment we had in Granger County up at, what's that ferry up there called? Nancy's Ferry. We pull, I think it's where it was, but I'm not going to name any names. You remember that time?
Yeah. And, I knew everybody in that family very well.
Well, these two guys, y'all brothers? No, we're friends. These guys were brothers. And Jeff was out there talking to him, and of course, I'd stay in the truck. You're not supposed to, and get out or nothing. But they were having a pretty heated conversation about it or whatever else. And I just laid my gun right up on the thing there. And not that did anything, but I thought we were going to have to fight those guys. I thought, man, this is the day I'm going to have to pop out of here and shoot somebody. We didn't, but that was a pretty tense moment right there.
Yeah, that stuff, it happened, when you was at work, but you learn really good how to talk to people. Your mouth can get you into a lot of trouble, but it can get you out of a lot of trouble too.
Yeah.
And I learned a long time ago that, I will be as polite and respectful to somebody as they will let me be. You know, I can be the asshole. Yeah. I don't want to be the asshole, but I can be, you know.
Well, you're friends with me, so everybody knew that part. You know,
go ahead.
I was just going to interject there. Yeah. You know how you do, we talk about this on the show a lot, and you've seen us play. Mm-hmm. But, you know, if we get a drunk heckler, or not even a heckler, somebody just trying to steal the limelight.
Want to hear it 3 steps.
Yeah, I want to hear it 3 steps. We got all kinds of stories to tell. Anyway, well, Mike's real good at de-escalating that. Right. Making them, you know, basically calling them an asshole and making them think it's their idea.
That's right.
You know? Well, he's real good at that with the public.
Yeah.
You know, very,
well, I would imagine your training and your wherewithal, and after being, and like you say, it might have helped you even more than what you realized by being that part-time worker and then doing the boating off thing. And, you know, cause there's nothing more important than experience.
No substitute.
Or time or no substitute. Yeah.
And you can read people a lot is what that is, you know, and I mean,
you start thinking about that immediately.
That's right.
When you know you got to step in to do something.
When you got to talk to somebody, you meet the guy who looks a little sketchy, but is overly friendly. It's like, there's something in that car, that boat, he don't want me to see. Why does he want me to leave? So why is he being so helpful? You know,
it's very fascinating because I got to learn a lot of that stuff, you know, secondhand or whatever about what people would do when they're lying and their tails and stuff like that.
Do you play cards?
I don't. I got a brother that does.
His brother does professionally.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm a terrible card player. I tell people there's 2 things I don't know squat about: music and cards. I don't know anything about it. I appreciate good music, and I like to see people playing cards.
You would think, with you having an eye for that kind of detail, that you would. I guess it's more of a human thing than it is a card thing. But first thing I thought about was like, okay, so you can pick up on.
And just using observation.
Yeah.
You know, you go and you talk to somebody and you're just, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? Of course, I've already seen that there's a couple drops of blood on your shoes. And I was like, had any luck today out here deer hunting? Oh, no.
Right.
Like, well, what's that? Well, that's, you know.
Cut myself shaving.
Do what?
Cut myself shaving.
That's exactly right. So.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I've been around through Jeff a lot of officers, and I will say that the most professional group that I've been around has been the TWRA guys. As far as, I call them super cops, you know. Of course, we grew up with a lot of people that hated them because I own that damn game warden. Wrote me a ticket or whatever.
Well, you know, just to interject real quick, stay where you're at, keep your thought, but to interject real quick, you can, as a kid, you can either be taught that guy's an enemy, or you can be taught that he's doing this because.
That's right.
And this is why.
That's right.
We need this person. This is why there's his job, and you can, you know, and I would dare say, I have no idea or no kind of proof on this, but I'd say that you can tell which one of those people are that have been trained, if you will, or has not been taught that you're an ally.
That's right.
And not somebody that you need to be hiding from, or that you're trouble if you see you coming. That's not always the case.
That's why one of the things that I'm really proud to say that we did years ago in some of these rural counties was we started doing this shop with a cop thing for kids. And we would raise money during the course of the year, you know, a Dunkin' booth or this or that or whatever. or community donations. And then the school would select a certain amount of kids that would go, and we would take them to Walmart, and they'd have $100 to spend or whatever, because all of their interactions, them kids with law enforcement officers have been, they came and they took daddy to jail. Or they come and they took mama to jail or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it's like,
or junior.
Or junior.
Because mama's, it's been hell since junior went to jail. So.
But it's, that's something that I was, always very happy to be affiliated with and enjoyed that, because man, those kids, they're in a make or break moment. If all they see is that uniform and an asshole, that's all they're ever going to think. But if they see this guy is somebody, who's excited, they're happy to see us, they're really somebody that, help you out.
Felt like a light went out. I was going to ask you, I was thinking about that. When did they start requiring fishing license in Tennessee?
Oh gosh. That's a tough one. I would dare say probably in the late 20s.
Okay.
Late 20s, early 30s, somewhere there. Yeah.
I've been alive, I knew that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just thinking about, in the rural counties, like Dad and them, and they would, hunt and fish all the time. That's all they did. And in that case, a lot of them to eat, and I was just trying to, I never sat down and asked Dad or anybody of that generation what their relationship with their game warden was like.
I can tell you, they know who they are. I mean, it's funny. I know who Jesse James is too. I mean, is it because they're notorious or because they're like, no, if you
live in sons of bitches,
try to tell
every last one of them. No, I'm just
if you live in a rural county, everybody knows who you are.
Because everybody hunts and fishes.
Everybody hunts and fishes. Everybody's outside. It's a small community and all that. And I mean, you were living in the ultimate glass house. I saw you taking six of something in your house the other day, and they weren't Mountain Dews.
I mean, I hear he's bad to drink.
They all see everything that you do. You get in an urban county like, Knox or Davidson or something like that. You're just some guy that drives a truck. They don't have any idea. Most people don't care. But in a rural county, they all know who you are.
When was TWRA started?
Probably there was a game warden hired on back in the early 1900s, I think 1906, but it structured into a professional organization, Tennessee Game and Fish, in 1949. That's when they hired, they had a standard of hiring. They weren't just picking buddies, and then in 74, it reorganized into what we know now as the TWRA.
Yeah. I'd like to ask one of those. Of course, Dad was born in 47. So, but the generation before they all die out, I'd like to find out what was it like when before game warden and, and just to see, that'd be a good conversation to have.
I love hearing anything about, history, especially East Tennessee history. I love it.
Yeah. But I was just talking about officers earlier about how they all seem professional. Everyone's I've ever dealt with.
Of course, they weren't. Appreciate you saying that.
They weren't trying to write me a ticket or nothing. It was in a context of a social context typically, but,
well, it's real easy, and I've probably been guilty of it at some point or another, to feel as if it were, they're not good people.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I think if you're going to be a good one, and I have no other than just my thoughts aloud right now as we go, if you're going to be a good one, then you probably got to go into it thinking, I've got to immediately figure out how to get their dukes down, because I'm not going to be trusted right off the bat.
No,
is
that's a good part. Like I've moved into a new.
Fair to say,
I've been the new guy that moves into a county. And the only thing that any officer has is their integrity. If you tell somebody you're going to do something, you better do it. If you say, I'll be out there to check your place, or to meet you, a landowner or whatever, you better do it. And the word spreads pretty quick that they say, this guy can be counted on. He's reliable.
Yeah.
He will show up. If you give him information, he will keep his mouth shut. There's people who would give me information. I will never reveal any of that I'll go to my grave. That nobody will ever know.
Yeah.
So I think that level of trust is the most important thing.
Well,
but you don't go into it.
No.
Feeling that, I guess, is what I'm, by being fresh into the thing. So it would be hard. I feel so much these days, especially with everything being so visible and, social media and the internet almost moves faster than real life.
You're right. It's crazy. And
something that happened in the now was 10 minutes ago online.
That's right.
So I feel for these fellas and ladies alike that come in, maybe with nothing but military training and then come into this and you just got to kind of feel like you got a crosshair on you from the begin, like you're a used car salesman.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like as soon as that person gets out of the car, they already don't trust me.
That's right.
I got to figure out some way to overcome that. And of course, with it being the big difference between used cars.
That's right.
And a law enforcement agent. So.
Well, I'll tell you one that kind of goes along with that. Talk about gaining the trust of a community is when I was working in Granger County, I tell people, I was like, there's a lot of migrant workers that would come there to pick tomatoes.
Absolutely.
And I learned real quick, I didn't speak any Spanish other than high school Spanish, Donde es el baño?
I didn't know you was in Spanish club.
See. So, and I learned real quick, if I don't learn some Spanish, I'm at a severe disadvantage. Because one, I want to keep myself safe. And two, I can't effectively do my job with this high population. So I learned, enough Spanish to do my job. And man, they really appreciate it because they didn't speak a lick of English.
Yeah.
And that they would very much enjoy seeing me coming. I had my boss with me one day and we pulled into Nancy's Ferry and there was a Latino family down there. And as soon as they saw me, they all threw their hand up, Senor Webb. We go down and check him. He goes, are you running for mayor of Nancy's Ferry or what? And I'm like,
he says, fuck no, Mexico.
But by the time that, those people in that Latino community had learned who I was, they invited me to their kids' quinceañera parties and all this kind of stuff. They'd have a cookout up on the lake. They'd want me to come by and stuff. And
So I got a Nancy's Ferry story that predates all your stories. So my dad and his buddy Lester,
and that's important.
1991.
Just so you know. My story's older than your story. What I started to say about our little encounter with the nefarious duo there, even though they were pissed off, you could tell when they were speaking to you that they respected you. There wasn't they knew they weren't going to get one over on you. It was a very much an Andy Griffith kind of moment. It's like, I'm not saying go without a gun, but
right.
That kind of thing. So Nancy's Ferry, 1991 said, me and Lester are going to go put the boat in at Cherokee Dam, and I need you to take us up there in your truck. And then I need you to pick us up at Nancy's Ferry.
Ugh.
So he had taken me the day before they were going to go to show me where Nancy's Ferry was at that.
And they were going to do this in a day?
Yeah. They were going to.
They were coming from the dam?
The dam to Nancy's Ferry. They thought that'd be an easy day trip or whatever. So
you got to get over that waterfall at Indian Cave first.
That's right. Little jump falls.
I'm 16 years old.
And hope it ain't dark.
I got a brand new girlfriend that I'm supposed to take to to dinner or whatever. Of course, no cell phones, none of that. They had said, we're going to be up there at 4:00. Meet us there. Well, Nancy's Ferry now is a wide open space compared to what it was then.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm driving my truck in this boat trailer that
little shitty road, same. But once you get back there, it's a big parking area.
Yeah. Well, at this time, that wasn't none of that there. Yeah. So I get back there.
I'm as old as your fucking story. Yeah. So you just remember that. Get on with it.
So I get back there at 4:00, a little before, because I thought, man, I got time to take them home, get cleaned up. Well, 8:30, 9:00 rolls around, and here they come. But the story is this: for 5 hours, I lived in a world that not many people got to experience. Nancy's Ferry at that time, it was like a shanty town of little makeshift tents and a community back there, buddy, living on the weekend. Shirts off, beers, whatever. Hey, babe, what you doing? I'm here to pick up my dad and kind of say, hey, come over here and have some damn barbecue, whatever. I sit there for 5 hours with a community I didn't know existed at Nancy's Ferry.
You were running for mayor in Nancy's Ferry.
Oh, yeah. Shoot. I was trying to pick out a spot to live.
But the hills had eyes.
There's been trips down to Amazon. Didn't take as long as what your dad did.
Well, what's funny, when they finally showed up, everybody there is drunk but me, because I got, and I'm panicked, 16-year-old. And, I said, where in the hell? Son, we had to run the motor for the last 5 hours and we'd have been here tomorrow. That's basically what he said. And yeah, man, Nancy's Ferry.
That's a big stretch of river.
It is.
That's a fact.
It's a lot of good fishing up there.
Oh, yeah, that's a fact, too.
It's about, what do you think? It's at least from Nancy's Ferry to the house is a day.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Nancy's Ferry to Mascot Bridge, that's probably the better part of a day.
Yeah.
And then Mascot Bridge to, right there at the Asheville Highway Bridge now, that's, a good solid day.
Yeah.
So. Well, you and I floated from Mascot Bridge area, a little below that, down there, Coldest Beer in USA at
Cliff Lane.
Yeah.
And down and squirrel hunted quite a bit doing that. And it's all day.
Oh, yeah. And you got to run the motor a good part of it or you won't get back in the dark.
Yeah. Me and Matt Van went one time out on the river. It was one of those, I don't know, it's probably one of those March days that was pretty, that just come along.
Right.
It was 60.
Right.
And it was like, man, today'd be a good day to get out on the water and paddle a little bit, I called Matt and I said, let's take the canoe over here, Cliff Lane, and we could do that. And then we could pull out over at, he had a place over there off of Nicely's farm here off Rutledge Pike. I said, that'd be good. I said, we can float through Spout Holler and all that. And that's some good fishing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, biggins.
And there ain't much pressure in there.
And I said, that'd be good. We put in, and got in a canoe, got out to the middle to get ready to start our trip. And the first paddle we put in the water, here come the wind.
Oh,
and
man.
It was in our face entire time. Bluebird skies. It might have been February.
Right.
It was a cold, it was February, March, but it was one of them off chance, really pretty days that you're like, oh no, this would be really nice to. But I'm telling you, and we had to work to get down this far. I mean, cause it was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Especially in a canoe too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awful.
We floated that one time. Do you remember that big yellow canoe we had? It was flat back on the back.
Yeah, I do.
We put in at that same spot and floated down to
another one of those.
Yeah, floated down to the house And of course, I was little then. I was probably 10 or something. And I was like, Daddy, I'm hung. It was one of those rock bluffs before you get down there to the turn at the old drive-in. And he's like, well, let me go over there. And I was reeling. All of a sudden, this smallmouth jumped out. To me, it was that big, and broke my line or whatever. And Dad looked at me and he said, son, that might have been the world record smallmouth you just missed right there. He said, that's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. So that's been our Bigfoot, is that we think the biggest smallmouth, the world record smallmouth's in a Holston. That's what we think. But
old Sam
I'll tell you right now, there's spots over there, what I call spout holler. I don't know if you guys know it as that, but, I don't want to say too much because I don't want anybody being
There's a
in
spring
there.
in the upper part of Old Spout Spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but there's shoals and rocks. There's rocks in there the size of Suburbans.
yeah.
And ledges and deep holes. And I mean, I've caught big fish out there. I've caught red eye in there that was, or not an actual red eye, but rock bass.
Yeah.
Which, Daddy always.
They're red eyes.
Yeah. But I've caught them in there, as wide as your hand.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, big uns.
That's something you don't see much of anymore.
No.
We used to catch quite a bit of red eye, but I don't see many.
I see them in creeks. I used to go over here behind, where Norton's barbershop is there on
the dip right there.
Yeah. On Mine Road.
Yeah.
You could go in right there and wade all the way up to quite a ways, probably a mile or more.
Okay.
And then there was some deep holes up in there. But I've caught a bunch of red eye and out of that creek and out of Flat Creek and stuff. Of course, that's still Flat Creek, but
that's good.
Did you find that in your job, I thought about this when you were talking about earlier, did you find that dealing with the public was harder on the water than it was because it was more of a general population and not?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty fair, because when people go on, one of the things that TWRA does is not only, hunting and fishing enforcement, but boating enforcement too, checking life jackets and boating under the influence and investigating accidents and all that stuff. And when you're out there on the 4th of July, then people are out there to have a good time. They don't want to be checked. They don't want to be inspected.
Yeah.
And you pull over somebody in a, $100,000 boat, they're getting the same check that the guy in the 14-foot flat bottom boat. They're all going to get checked, and some people, they don't appreciate that.
Yeah. They feel above that.
That's exactly, but you know what? Your name can go on the bottom line of the ticket just the same as the guy in the 14-foot boat too.
I bet that's been said probably, something to that effect. Press hard 4 copies, right?
And well, I won't go into all that.
But I just figured it would be harder, in a hunting and fishing, people expect, and they're somewhat probably in the know when it comes about what y'all do.
That's right.
But on the lake, these jet skiers and stuff,
there's a lot of them that know, but there's a lot of them, they have no idea. And you ask the general public as a whole across the United States, they say, what's a game warden, conservation officer, wildlife officer do? Man, it's probably only 30% of the whole country that even knows what that is.
Right.
And it's getting, and I hate to say it, it's getting to be worse and worse because there aren't people that hunt and fish like they used to. The number of people who buy hunting licenses every year continues to decline. It is a dying sport.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Hunting, especially?
Oh, yeah, for
specifically?
Sure. Yeah.
How's that going to affect the animal population?
I don't think it's necessarily going to affect the animal population a whole lot. Is because there will be what's called a carrying capacity, how much the habitat can support, and that's the idea of a wildlife manager is they want to harvest that excess, let that go into the hands of the sportsman, that excess. So there will be things, if there's less people hunting, they'll up the amount of bag that they can harvest or whatever.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Have you guys seen this? And I know enough about it to say, hey, have you seen this?
Right.
So, but I read a little bit about it. It was on one of my news feeds, but, have you seen where in Canada that there is, there's a certain population of grizzlies due to a lot of the ice melt and a lot of this free North Country opening up, that are moving further and further north.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
And are breeding with polar bears. Have you heard that?
No, I have not. No.
Yeah, it was, they were talking about it. It was a trusted, it wasn't,
right.
The Inquirer,
That's
Bat
right.
Boy, and, that kind of thing.
Grasshopper.
Yeah. But yeah, they were talking about that, and they were one of the wildlife biologists they were talking to. They were asking them that, how is this going to affect the, the bear population and stuff, and is it going to get things out of whack?
Right.
And and he was like, well, no, not as of right now. He said, but if we do continue to see more and more ice melt and global warming, that people have taken up their habitat now, so they're going to continue to search for habitat.
That's right.
He said, so I don't know long term how that would play out, but I'm telling you right now, that'd be a mean son of a bitch.
I agree. And I think a part of that, expansion of habitats, expansion of ranges of different species of wildlife, that is definitely going on. Because, you think about from the time that people got to this continent in, the Mayflower,
absolutely.
up until probably the 60s or 70s, it was, if you saw it, you killed it, and most of the time you ate it. So if there was a grizzly bear, there were grizzly bears that roamed this part of the world. They were elk here and all that.
Yeah.
And I think that mindset has definitely changed. There's less people who hunt, less interest. And it's the same thing that's going on here in East Tennessee with the population of bears. I mean, it is through the roof.
Yeah.
If you told me, Jeff, I saw a black bear walk behind the house I was like, wouldn't surprise me in the least.
No, it wouldn't surprise me either. No. Honestly. I mean, I've seen some big cats around here.
Right.
And some eyeballs that weren't coyotes.
Well, that's like a while back there. We'd always get wolf complaints,
Yeah.
And it was like, we're like, probably not. But, there was one in Kentucky and they did a DNA test on it. Somebody shot it, thought it was, man, that's a humongous coyote.
Right.
Well, turns out it was actually out of Minnesota, and it had traveled out of Minnesota into northern Kentucky.
Wow.
So
tired of that damn cold weather.
That's right.
Well, you look at the migration of, I mean, it's a proven fact. I mean, armadillos.
That's exactly right.
Alligators.
Yep.
Are more and more coming north.
Yep.
Weird shit, man.
That's right.
Weird shit.
We always heard this growing up from my dad and from people that hunted a lot as kids and young men, whatever.
Wampus cat.
Yeah. That there was no deer back then, not like there is now. Is that true?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All the deer were about killed out of all of Tennessee. And there's been, starting probably, oh my gosh, in the 40s, they started trying to get the population back. There was just a handful of deer in places like Tellico, maybe Chuck Swan, just very remote places. There were no deer around, turkeys either.
Yeah.
But they would go and, pen rear what they had to and get them from other states. And now we got a really robust deer population. And
oh yeah, you see every day now.
I seen a doe this morning over in Holston Hills.
Yeah.
Just come running right through the backyard where he's over there getting ready to cut those trees up.
Nobody thinks a thing about it nowadays. And bears, they're going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
The exact same thing.
So pretty much all that's because of conservation efforts by TWRA and other people like that.
I will say definitely.
Yeah.
People buying hunting licenses, that money is used for, restoration.
Well, and I tell people that all the time when you run because I thought, my buddy's, he's a game warden. And I'm like, game warden or whatever,
Right.
And I tell him, it's like, listen, buddy, you wouldn't have nothing to hunt if it wasn't for those guys. Pretty much.
I tell people that hunters and fishermen, they are the original environmentalists because they voluntarily said back years ago, we want to have a tax put on guns and ammunition at the wholesale level. We want a tax put on fishing equipment at the wholesale level to pay for this kind of stuff. We want to buy hunting licenses to acquire new land and stuff like that. And I mean, you think about people, Teddy Roosevelt, John Muir, not necessarily so much John Muir, but Teddy Roosevelt, a conservationist. That was somebody that had a big influence on that movement.
Oh, and especially at that time.
That's right.
That time in history as well. I mean, that was a big thing, the national parks.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think, you wonder what percentage of people in Sevier County, for instance, would have an idea and or an appreciation for the things that Roosevelt did with the park services, considering that 13 million people go there a year, and that's the only reason that they're not up there fucking picking wings off flies and watching goddamn apples grow.
That's right. That's exactly. And that's one of the things that I can say,
that's their
was a fantastic concept. The concept of a national park. And we have national forests. They have two entirely different schemes of management, whereas the national park is preservation.
Yeah.
National forest are conservation based. And but they all have their place. So
are we, in your opinion, or with things that are happening, I imagine you still stay pretty well in the loop. I don't think it's something that just because you're retired that it leaves you.
No,
that you don't have that interest anymore.
No, not at all.
Probably interested more now that you're not working.
That's true.
Yeah.
I was like,
that could be. Yeah.
People say, "What do you do when you're off work? Do you go?" Back when I was working, they said, "You go hunting and fishing." I was like, "No." It's like, how many of this do you want to fool with?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go see people play music, or I want to, relax or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
what do you think we're in a I'm trying to figure out the right way to word it, but are we in any kind of danger of losing that? Our forests, our national forests.
I don't think we're I see what you're saying. I don't think we're in any danger of losing our national forests or our national parks. People love national parks.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a government shutdown, one of the first things they do is close a national park because they know that will make the phone ring.
Yeah.
And that will make people pay attention. The issue is how do you manage for the 13 million people who are coming there,
right.
or the millions of people that go to Yosemite.
Right.
The old phrase, we joke about it in the profession about they're loving their parks to death. And,
right.
And they all want to get out there. They all want to see it, but man, so that's a management thing that those managers have got to figure out, got to work on it and decide. But do I think that we're in any danger of losing it? No.
Well, not just, but maybe losing it to the fact of that they will love it to death.
That's true.
That kind of, maybe that angle on it.
I think one of the things that worries me is people who are vested in the outdoors, like I call consumptive users, hunters and fishermen, that number continues to dwindle every year, and they are not passing that interest on to a kid,
Right.
So there's not going to be those people who are conservation based minded. And you talk about on national forest property that, timber harvest is an essential part of a national forest.
Yeah.
And they are very, important in the management scheme there. So people who see that and they say, man, I can't believe they're cutting these trees on this national forest. If people don't know the concept or the idea behind it, then there is possibility for issues as far as management.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, you say not passing it on. I think that the negative connotation has been that if you hunt, you're destroying something where in fact, it's part of the conservation effort that you have to, there's a balancing act there, with taking game and fish out of the system. Just like when they do controlled forest burns and things like that. So I think, everybody has got the mindset now, though, if you kill something, it's bad. It's bad. Mm-hmm. It's bad. It's bad. So now don't do that. We would never hunt or whatever without realizing that that's part of the system that has to stay in place.
You think about conservation groups like Ducks Unlimited or Quail Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, all these different types of consumptive users. Why do they put their own personal money on the line to further developing, more land, acquiring more land for public use and all that? Is because they genuinely have a concern for wildlife and they appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, good guys and good gals alike. If you're looking for somewhere to go to get your hair did, then look no further than the Chop Shop Hair Studio. Our longtime friend and supporter, Cindy Lou, opened this spot located in Knoxville's very own Happy Holler back in 2010. Chop Shop Hair Studio offers a variety of services, including facial waxing, accessories, tools, and a complete line of men's and women's products, along with essential oils. A lover and supporter of the musical arts here locally and abroad, Cindy has a small stage with stringed instruments and offers discounts to guests if they are willing to play and or sing a song. The Chop Shop Hair Studio is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and 100% pure style, just like our dear friend and owner, Cindy Lou. The hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also visit thechopshophairstudio.com and or call 865-525-4240 to book your next visit to go and get your hair did. Located at 1206 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, Chop Shop Hair Studios. Stop by and tell them McGill and Jamie sent you to have one more for the good guys. So, what are you doing? What are you doing these days that you're retired? Are you just taking it easy, enjoying your retirement? I mean, you got started early.
Well, yeah, I did get started early. I'm very thankful of that. Right now, I've had a part-time job for several years doing installation of sound systems and lighting for schools and churches and stuff.
Yeah.
Work for a guy here in Knoxville. And I enjoy that kind of work mainly because of the people I get to work with.
Right.
And I will say this, I don't know anything about sound. I'm just the back and the grunt that carries the stuff in and sets it up. All these dials and everything that you got, I know that's really cool, but I don't know the first thing about it.
But I always say it's super ironic to me that we've been as close as we are for that long. And I've been doing this for 30 plus years or whatever. And that's what he kind of does for a living.
Yeah,
it's
that's pretty
kind of crazy.
I do that. And then, I guess, for the last probably 10 years or so, I kind of had an interest in investing and money management. So I went and got my licenses and all that over the past 2 years. And I now work as a financial planner.
Okay.
Jeff's my financial planner.
Nice.
I do that for, mostly for law enforcement officers, but I will take on clients if there's somebody that I know, but it is basically financial planner for law enforcement officers.
Right.
So, and I enjoy that.
Who need all the help they can get because they don't get paid enough.
That's exactly right.
So,
along with our teachers.
That's teachers, firemen,
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Public service.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, you got to save that money to pay the big boys in Washington and Nashville. You're not worth that. I know you're getting shot at.
Uncle Suge always gets his cut.
That's right.
Now, so because I'm interested in this because it surprises me sometimes with people. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm pretty sure that I could be one of those fellas who retired and I could go stand on my head for 10 hours if I needed to and probably not get bored of anything.
Yeah.
But I also know I've got a real close friend who was fortunate enough to be able to retire early, like really early. But I don't know if it's been any good for him because he's always got to have something to do.
Right.
When I was in Hawaii, I was like, what do you want to do today? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You want to get drunk and listen to Ernest Tubb? This guy would have had to have a plan or something to do. So are you,
I will say,
where are you at on that?
I've dialed it back a lot.
Yeah.
And this sounds pretty ridiculous, but it's true. Probably the last 5 years before I retired, I was probably working about 80 hours every week because I would not only work for TWRA, but I worked for a couple of municipal police departments as well on the side because it's a retirement thing. The more you make, the more you're going to draw, that kind of deal. And they're all within the same system. So that was my goal to, really bust my ass the last,
So it was a plan.
It was a plan for sure. And everybody gave me a lot of kidding about it, but I kept a countdown timer on my phone. And they'll say, where you at? And I was like 13 months, 12 days and 6 hours and I'm done,
And he was too. He didn't, there wasn't no 1 minute after.
No, it was time.
It was buyer's remorse, know. So
you didn't renege.
Did not renege. I have to say, so I've dialed it back from 80 hours a week to probably, 40 hours a week now doing what normal people do. So,
So you're half retired.
Yeah,
basically. I want you to, you're not going to be able to do this now because you're going to be a financial planner, but it would have been nice for somebody to ask you, what are you doing now, Jeff? And you said, I'm in between jobs. I've always wanted to hear you say I'm in between jobs. That's not going to happen, is it?
No, that's true. That's not going to happen.
So, damn, you ruined that for me.
I ain't got much going on.
In between jobs. Yeah, I'm like you. I think of course, Meg always says I'll never retire because I have to have something to do and I'll be doing something. But maybe it'll be something I like to do.
That's right.
As opposed to like this, something like this, as opposed to dispatching trucks and dealing with the economy and all that stuff. So, yeah.
I learned that in the job that I was in, I had a job kind of up the ladder, as they say, within the agency, and I didn't care for it. It was in an office. I'd leave out of the house with my uniform on, my little computer bag, and I'd get in the truck. I'd drive to the office. I'd type or do phone calls. I was like, this ain't what I went to school to do. I want to be the guy out in the field doing it, So I took a pretty significant pay cut and went back to doing that. But the thing is that is a young person's game. To get out and drive up the lake after dark, your eyes are not as good as they are when you're 23 years old. Your reaction time is entirely different. Your hearing is different.
Your tolerance for bullshit is different.
That is definitely different. Life changes you, and so you can't do a job like that forever. And that's the reason there's a mandatory retirement age of age 60 for that. You can't work beyond age 60 in this state.
Right.
So you better have your time in by then or because you're leaving.
Yeah.
So.
No, ain't you glad you didn't wait till then?
Oh, God.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, well, and now the job, because they restructured pensions and things like that, is nowhere near as attractive for a retiree as it was when you got on. So.
And that's the same in any public job anymore. Every, fire department, police department, state agency or whatever, they're all dealing with the same thing. They've restructured their retirement system, and that was the big draw to going to work in those kind of jobs. They don't pay anything, but you had a good retirement.
Like good benefits.
Good benefits.
A good
dental, eye, all that. So just.
The days of young men living long enough to draw pensions and, like my dad or grandfather or whomever.
Yep.
And generations past. I mean, I don't know.
I'm pretty envious of that generation.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, when what happened with that is that they brought some damn people in, some number crunchers, and they're like, what in the hell is this over here that you're paying out all? It's like Bobby Bonilla and Ken Griffey. You got paid for 30 years after you retired because you made a deal back then. And because they were not investing that money and they were just basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're like, hell, we can't do this no more.
That's right.
Because they did it wrong to begin with.
Right.
They should have done like the railroad did and took money and said, here you go. We're going to stick it in this fund, mutual fund.
It's your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that I know about like the what little bit that I know about like railroad retirement is the fact that it's literally your money that you put in and it's not.
Well, they don't pay Social Security.
Right.
So if you're an actual employee of the railroad, and now, of course, I deal with the railroad every day, and your buddy, used to work for the railroad, and he would know more about it, but I deal with him every day. I would say, and I could be wrong, so this is not fact checker. It's be a good thing to look up, but I would imagine that most of the people that they employ, if you will, are indeed contractors now. The railroad.
Okay.
There's hundreds and hundreds of contractors that do rail work and things like that. So the railroad employees have pulled down into this tight circle.
It's like KUB.
Yeah.
Dad retired from there 38 years and I just always figured that's what I do.
Right.
I mean, I went to work with him for years to the water plant and would walk, take the readings and do all the stuff. I just figured you'd get a job at KUB. I mean,
right.
And, it was so funny because we got close to that age. It was just like, what are you thinking about doing? And I said, well, I guess I'll just go. And he's like, no, you ain't going there. He said, it ain't the same.
That's right.
And I was like, well, now's a fine damn time to tell me.
Wait a little long.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't know what a lot of entities are going to do to try to lure people to those lower paying professions like in public service, because if you don't have something for the benefits, they ain't going to show up.
No,
they're not going to keep coming to work there.
Well, I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to contract it out.
Yeah.
Because then they get to avoid, payroll taxes and all that other stuff. And they write one little sum every week and here you go away.
Well, I think that's why we see such a big, decline in people in our age group is that, we've been bit by that bug and we've seen it. And now, just about a large percentage of people our age are ready to bet on themselves. and not, because the days of any kind of loyalty of any of that shit, that's been gone for
and ready
many years.
Yeah, right. And ready to bet on themselves whether they were ready or not.
Right.
Basically forced to do so.
And that's one of the things that I like in what I'm doing now is the fact that, you know, if somebody establishes an IRA or a Roth IRA or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter where you work. As long as you're employed, you can make that contribution and it's yours. It doesn't have anything to do with your employer. Mm-hmm. That is your individual retirement account.
Right. And yeah, it's, anyway, that's a whole other ballgame, and which is also interesting because because I've been investing for years and years and years, and got to the point to where I was like, well, like you just said, it's like, look, man, I could put money into this mutual fund or this stocks or whatever, or I could put that money in my hands and triple it, or buy trucks and whatever else. So,
well, yeah, you can have that $600,000, $700,000 a month car payment,
mm-hmm.
or you can pay yourself $600,000,
that's right,
$1,000 a month.
Pay yourself
and
first,
see how see how fast that
that's right
adds up.
That's right.
Sure. You know, it's just another thing that takes discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
to do it. Cause it would be awful easy to say, you know, I did that for years when I'd play gigs. You know, I started one whole year, I saved all the ones from tip money.
Okay.
And I just save all my ones. Right. Everything else I'd put, you know, to where I had to, you know, I use that going in the bank or whatever I needed.
Your living money.
Yeah. And I put all that away, and, you know, I got to do, I can't remember how much it was, but I paid, you know, that first year I went to Hawaii, I paid my plane ticket for all of that just out of ones.
Yeah.
You know, so then I started deciding, yeah.
Now appearing on stage, Candy.
Yeah. What are you doing in that big bag? That's all my nickels I saved. I'm going to Budapest.
Well, we'd go make change at the bank. I'd say, I'm going to need 200 ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, really? It's like, it's Friday night, baby. Of course. Like, no, it's for the restaurant.
But then I started doing it with fives.
Right.
And then I started doing it with my tens, you know, and it really paid off. I mean, because I was able to, you know, now you suddenly got enough money that you're almost to that point to where you can buy that vehicle and not have a payment.
That's right.
You know,
it's a discipline
and different things like that. So,
and it's something we're not taught in high school either.
Oh no,
part of the curriculum, we've talked about this a lot, you know, but they should teach you about investing.
Yeah,
I mean the exponential growth of money, you know, pressure and time, right? Just pressure as you add a little bit and wait, you know, and it's, you can't afford realistically as a young, especially when you're real young, to not invest.
That's right.
You know, and it takes discipline to not buy that DVD or, you know, spend $25, $30, $100 out to eat now, you know, and put that towards something. So,
but then you have those from the area we're from, you have those kids that are, you know, when they got that first job paying $10 an hour, that, you know, they had made it, but then still didn't have enough maybe to get from week to week. Right. And somebody's telling them, well, you should, if you just put $10 a month, you know, or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the most minute, you know, sum that you could come up with sometimes for a lot of us. I know it was for me when I first started trying to have a family and get ahead. It was just like, I couldn't spare
A nickel.
Damn nickel.
Yeah.
And it's tougher now than it's ever been.
It's definitely tough.
You know, but yeah, I mean, you can't. It's the biggest problem, of course, with the money thing. And I've never been in a position where I'm like, oh man, if I don't ever jot and tittle here, I'm not making rent or whatever. But I know a lot of people personally that are good, hard-working people. That's all they do, man. That's every week. They got $20 to last them till Friday. And, you know, it's hard to tell that person, hey, if you'll take 19 of that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a great app, though, that's really good for that kind of thing for people that is that Acorns app.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I seen that pop up on a Google ad or something, you know, and I was wondering about that.
It's pretty cool. You've got a couple of different ways you can invest, and then you can set your investments based on how aggressive you want them to be, how risky. So if you got longer time to invest, you want to go higher risk. But what it does is one of the ways, if you buy something for $2.79, it'll take that 21 cents and kick it over there, and you spent $3.
Yeah.
So you chip away at it, and you think, hey man, that don't add up. Shoot, it does too, boy.
Journey of 1,000 miles.
Yeah. And it's
saving ones.
That's right.
Yeah, same thing.
Yep.
So it's but you know, back what you were saying is I in the 90s when that stock market and all those tech stocks and everything, and that's when I was really starting to learn a little about it. And I just realized that it's all pretty much based upon nothing really, you know, as far as we went from a country that made everything, you know, General Motors, I could get my mind around the assets there, but Google, you know.
And this crypto stuff, there's nothing, you know, backing any of that. There's no ownership in a company. You know, you don't own a portion of a company.
I've never understood that.
The only time I've ever invested in crypto has been as an investment and not buying cryptocurrency. In other words, buying into was the one called Ethereum? Is that one of them? Buying into that as a commodity, if you will, as opposed to buying 27 Ethereum, you know, which is what they're doing, but because it's feels complex to me, you know, especially nothing.
That's all fiction.
Yeah.
You know,
but realistically, so's the American dollar. It's not based upon any asset either anymore, really. So, it's just not regulated at all.
Right.
That's the other thing, you know. So, whereas with cash, you know, a dollar's a dollar, and if nobody's buying your cryptocurrency, it's worthless.
That's right.
Right. So
supply and demand if anybody wants it.
That's right. Yeah. So
yeah, I don't. I tell you, it's something else. The thoughts about getting by and, you know, did you wait too long? Did I not do enough?
I like what Warren Buffett says, you know, and obviously he's the most successful investor of all time. He says, you know, there's people out there that are stock forecasters say, oh, the market's about to do this. It's about to do that. And he says, stock forecasters make fortune tellers look good.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows what is going to happen. All you can do is learn what level of risk you can tolerate for what point you are in your life. Be diligent, be disciplined, and stay the course. You know?
Yeah. And remember that the people managing these funds and whatever know what the hell they're doing.
That's their job.
That's their job. So,
the guy's working on your car, he knows what he's doing. The guy's doing your triple bypass, he knows what he's doing. And the people managing that money, they know what they're doing.
Man, I tell you, that's the boy, you talking about one that wears me out is like when somebody asks you to help them or because you know how to do something, and then that one person comes in and starts telling you shouldn't do it that way, or you should, you know, it's like, well, what the hell did you just hire me for?
That's right.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Cause
It's like you guys. If I was to say, hey, I'd like for y'all to come out and play some music for me and I'm going to pay X amount of money, there's no way I would say anything about, music or anything because I don't know the first thing about it.
Yeah.
I know what
You're not going to ask us to play 3 steps?
Well, we'll do that one later.
Later, hell. Like, we got to tell that story. So I used to play at this dive talking about trailers. It was 2 tractor trailers welded together off a level road called the Silver Spur.
Oh, shit.
And played there about every weekend for a couple of years. And this guy, Jeff, was there. And this local guy was there every weekend. He got out up on stage. It was for the Christmas. It was around Christmas show. He came up on stage. He said, I want to hear that 3 steps. And Donnie's like, we'll do it. He goes, I want to hear that 3 steps. He said, we'll do it later. He said, later, hell. That boy's come down here in that Mach 1 Mustang picked me up. I want to hear that damn 3 steps.
You talk about responding to a crowd and talking the drunk down. Yeah. He did that.
And that's why when Mark, in our first episode, Mark Dunn says something about 3 steps. Remember, he's talking, I said, hell, I want to hear that 3 steps.
Yeah.
We'll play that later.
I had the weirdest one I ever had one night was somebody, I did this version. You might have been there. I don't know. It might have been. No, I tell you who it was. It was me and Kimbrough and Tim Lee. I think Greg Horn. It was all the guys that used to come down and I had a whole crew of guys that would just pop in when I did Jimmy's on Thursday nights. And next thing you know, there'd be a whole damn band up there with me. Somebody'd say, I brought this or.
Right.
That's awesome.
And stuff like that. And, which was always fun. So one night, I think Kimbrough was one. So we ought to have a Jimmy's reunion band or something to come up, play Barley's one night or whatever. Well, I'd been working on this version of, Who'll Stop the Rain. And I sing it in a really high register. Which Fogarty does too, but I do it a little. I can't remember what movie I was watching, but I heard Willie and his sister do a version of it, and it was just this. It was slowed down, and it was just. I don't know. It just struck me, and I thought, well, I'm gonna start doing that one, and this asshole. They had been there about most of the night. And they had been fairly tolerable. Fairly.
Right.
But kind of like you and your job, something's coming.
Right.
This guy's up to no, he's not going to be able to help himself. He's either going to lie about the blood on his shoe or he's going to pull a Roman candle out of his ass or something fucking stupid's going to happen here any minute. And he goes, and I did that song and, you'd have thought, it was great, right? He started asking, he said, for Patty Loveless, Susie Bogus songs and all these female songs. And I'm like, dude, do you not see?
This beard?
Yeah. And I'm like, I could show you the other thing, I guess, if you don't realize that I'm just singing in a higher register, but I'm not singing. Any rate, and then he got really belligerent, and Kimbrough said something which was very unlikely, and finally I just said over the mic, I said, somebody's got to get these sons of bitches out of here, or I'm getting ready to.
Right.
And here they come. Right. Here come the door guys or whatever, but. Yeah, that was the weirdest one I ever had was sing that Patty Loveless song. And I'm like, what the fuck?
We'll do that one later.
Do that later. Hell.
I should have just said that.
Do that later. Oh, yeah. That Silver Spur, man, that was a dive. Not many dives like that left around here.
No, it's kind of sad, really.
It really is.
Yeah.
We talked about it before. It's just
the one down there at Granger Avenue. What was that? 6th and Granger.
had
karaoke all the time.
Yeah, Zeke's.
Yeah,
Zeke's.
Toots.
Yeah.
Toots was always good. Boy, we played a many of shows in there. We'd get in there early and move the pool table. And
Asheville Highway used to be known for all them kind of places.
Roundup.
And man, they're just not there anymore.
Yeah.
Oak Grove, Roundup, all them places.
yeah, Oak Grove, Roundup.
Yeah.
What was the, wasn't there one moved in down there? It's that old David Carpet building there at one time
wasn't that
or another.
the dance barn or whatever? David's Dance Barn or
so.
something?
Down the hill down yonder?
No, it's not just
If you're going towards town, it would be on the left.
Yeah. Well, that Silverado was down in the.
Yeah, that's right too. Yeah.
Was down
but
there.
that was the Roundup back in the day.
No, Roundup's across the street.
Yeah, that's where the.
What was that one back in our day?
That one down there?
Yeah.
Silverado.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I missed.
And then it turned into something else.
Yeah.
Starlight?
I think so.
Yeah, Starlight.
They're probably selling flea market spots in there now.
Yeah, no, it's actually a Mexican nightclub or something. Okay. I don't know if it's operational, but it's in Spanish. But the Roundup's on the other side next to Wilbur Vault.
Yeah.
Or was.
Yeah. And then
those places,
and then the Oak Grove was just right down from that on the same side.
Yeah. They're just all gone now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The Toots was a big one for me because I lived there on Scott Avenue for a long time. And so it was a literal, like my buddy who lives in Pittsburgh, there's neighborhood bars that you can walk to.
Right.
And and you go in there just like when I went to Toots, I went in there more to talk to Bonnie, the owner, and cause she was such a sweet lady.
Right.
And, than I did for anything else, unless it was shit kicking time and it was time to put on a monthly show there or something, charge a cover, or, cause you had to make your own, that's the other part about that is like, I think a lot of people they misunderstand, like when they see all these different bands playing different festivals and here and there, and they only see that life, and they don't see the fact that there was many nights, even for them, that they had to go to that local watering hole and talk them into it and sell their own tickets, have their own doorman, have their own ID. You got to wear so many hats when you're just trying to make a buck, making a racket.
And you can't make more now than you could 30 years ago. Either.
Well, no. Buying a single on iTunes today is still 99 cents.
Yep.
And they're still cutting that pie with 12 different slices out of it. And it's like, well, shit, how do you... I've thought about it a dozen times. I did a short run CD with all my acoustic stuff. A lot of the songs we still play. And I just did it with me and a guitar. But
theme song came off of that album.
Yeah. But to think about doing a new record, it's like, I don't even know if it would be, I don't know how people make records anymore or how they sell them, because, obviously you get, you can sell it on any any online platform. All you got to do is sign up and pay them enough money to take your shitty recording or your great recording, and they're going to put it on there. But, you don't ever see it back. I mean,
pennies of a
I might get a check every other month for $30 or something, or 10 but to make merchandise like a CD, I mean, who's got a CD player anymore?
That's what we was talking about coming up the road.
I don't know if it would be beneficial for you to even print them.
You'd probably be better off printing vinyl now, from the nostalgia standpoint. A lot of people, especially in our circle, buy vinyl.
And it's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I can only imagine.
To do it. We did that last Romeo record, we did vinyl, and it was, I think, for 100 copies, I think it was $1,200. I mean, it was basically worked out to $12 a record.
Right.
So now you're going to sell them for 20.
That's right.
Or 25.
Yeah.
And still have the possibility of sitting on them
and hope you
not
got
everybody's got enough of them.
Yeah, I mean, how many people have a record player? Well, we were actually talking about CDs when we were pulling up, on the way here, it's 40-something-year-old technology.
Yeah,
I mean, we're really, and it's because they've dumbed our ears down so much now. Most people now listen to MP3s because it's streaming stuff,
Well, and it's easy.
Well, that's right.
That's attainable.
Everybody wants instant, no matter what it is. They want instant news. They want instant social media. They want instant shipping. They want all of it instant.
Especially these days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest, one of the big things.
Yeah.
But I don't, what do you do? I guess probably the smartest thing to do would be try to set up a secure site with your wares and do a pre-order thing to be able to check the temperature, and then you could decide on 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, whatever.
What volume you going to do.
Yeah. But
the only saving grace for,
but then you got to fuck with all that.
That's right.
The only, the way they're making their money now is obviously doing shows and doing tours and stuff like that. But how long is it going to be? This sounds crazy as hell and far-fetched, but it's not. How long is it going to be before the virtual version of George Strait is traveling around?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they're already doing it.
I know, but
with Elvis and
that's what I'm saying.
Fucking Tupac and Prince,
right?
Michael Jackson.
And dress it up, make it a show.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be at the Sphere next week in Las Vegas.
That's right. So,
then
what? Then you can take George Strait
and have him in 50 cities in one night.
Have him in 50 cities in one night and pay him the same money that he'd get if you played it on Spotify.
Yeah.
So now all that money's going in the record companies. It's a racket, man. That's a whole different show right there. But
it's a for sure.
There's no way yet. They'll find a way. There's no way yet to track it and to actually pay the artist for what they're doing, because the norm, I mean, hell, forget Spotify and all that. You can listen to anything you want on YouTube for free.
That's right.
Right. And sometimes in a better resolution, better recording.
Right.
So don't know what they're going to do. I do know what they're going to do. They're going to replace most musicians with artificial stuff, and the masses will just eat it up. Just like they're putting, my favorite mayonnaise. This hurts my heart right here. This really stung me deep.
Let's hear it.
My favorite mayonnaise is Hellman's. Grew up on Hellman's. I always had it. It's got engineered ingredients in it now, so she won't buy it. So now I'm a Duke's man, and I'm not happy about it at all.
Got what?
It says bioengineered ingredients on the label. Now, what is the bioengineering degree? I don't know. Maybe but so she's not buying it now, and it's Duke's only, and that hurts my heart. Really does.
Well, sounds like to me you got to buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sneak in some almonds. What are you eating?
We were talking about the music thing, and this is something that I've always remembered. I was playing Douglas Corner down in Nashville one night, and I did an old Hank Thompson song. I mean, obscure. Ain't nobody knows who the fuck Hank Thompson is anymore, And I was doing an old song, and this old fella come walking up to me.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, I just wanted to tell you guys I really liked your set. And he said, I especially like that Hank Thompson song. And I said, well, thank you. I said, it's very rare these days anybody even knows who the guy was, I said, most of the time people ask me if I wrote that one, or
right,
because it follows a theme, of stuff with my music. And he said, well, I was Hank's lawyer.
No kidding.
And so we started talking and everything, and he gave me his business card, and this quote was written on the back of it. It says, the music business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side.
Oh, man.
So
that's good.
That's the fucking music business, really.
That's
talent
good.
Ain't got nothing to do with it.
Right.
If there is talent involved, then it's a bonus.
Right.
It's an extra. But and these days, I don't know how much I give a shit about it anymore. I mean, I obviously I care about the business or the music and my outlet that it creates for me. But I don't know if I got the heart to try to
the business aspect,
if I thought about, if I didn't have anything here keeping me, or, would I go back to working 150 dates a year?
Right.
Would I go back to, having a vehicle that I could sleep in and carry all my gear and be safe and locked up, right, and travel? I don't know. I don't know if I would anymore. I don't.
I'd say it's a different animal right now than it was back then by a long shot.
It is to a degree, but
what's your famous quote though about Nashville and that the whole system? It's always been, you say something like, it's always been a damn machine.
Oh, it's always, yeah. No, it's always been. There ain't ever been any loyalty or anything. It's always been a popularity. It's always been a hit machine.
Right.
It's always been the next guy up, next girl up. Who can we get to sound like this when they sold 6 million copies?
Right.
Oh, she kind of sounds like them.
Right.
Well, let's get her to lose a little weight and get her stylist and, and then do this and do that. Now we got, okay, we'll press that,
Right.
It's always been that way. A lot of people like to say that, it sold out, but no, I mean, all the way back to the 50s and 60s.
Right.
It's always been that way.
Right.
It's always been the next hit, the next person.
We've talked about doing an episode about this. Let's see what you think about it, because we listen to songs now and, that popular radio, let's say. And I'm like, God almighty, this is awful. This is just awful. And I was talking about it one time. I mean, we had a guest on, I think, but I wonder, because a lot of the people that we love, right? All of our quote unquote heroes were popular music back in the day, right? Like Chuck Berry, for example, or Merle Haggard, or whoever. Was there somebody in the 1950s who was like, God, this Chuck Berry stuff sucks? And
absolutely.
I don't mean because of what it was, but I mean, if we were in 1955 or whatever, or 6, would we have heard Elvis and all those been like, oh God, this isn't popular music, and then been thinking about some obscure person that we know that's 10 times better? Would that have been the case then too?
Very well could have been. I mean, if you got the generation that's listening to Tommy Dorsey and the Glenn Miller band and the big band stuff, and then you had the stuff before that was the 20s that were the Torch Singers and the rhythm, or I don't guess it was even called rhythm and blues then. It was just blues. So yeah, probably so.
They heard Hank Williams and they said, man, this guy is a degenerate. Why would anybody listen to somebody like this guy?
Yeah.
Well, and then, God damn, he's just a moaning and a whining. And my brother's kid can sing better than that.
That's right.
That had to be said, right?
Oh, I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
I like that line where he says, back then they called him crazy. Nowadays they call him a saint.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that song? Is that the one with him and Waylon?
Yeah. The Conversation.
Yeah.
Hey,
let's talk about your daddy.
Yeah.
Oh, I say this all the time. People
really
that don't know any better get pissed off about it. But Hank Jr. is a better singer than Hank Sr.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
It just is. But I mean, if you tell somebody that, it's like it's like, oh, you just talked about Smile Mount Rushmore.
If you go back.
Jesus Christ, it's Hank Williams.
If you go back to his, there's an album out there. It's a greatest hits thing, and it's one of those Millennium Connect collections. It's got the silver packaging. There was a bunch of those guys came out with them back then. But this is like pre-Mountain shit when he was still clean shaven.
Right.
He does this blues song called "I've Got a Right to Cry." And some of the stuff there's a live album called Live from Cobo Hall in Detroit. Shit. Fuck you. I mean, incredible.
Right.
The range. I mean, there's stuff at my peak when I had more range of different keys. And when I say range, I could sing in, 6 or 7 different keys easily from the top of that to the bottom of it, maybe more. There's a lot of that early Hank stuff, Junior stuff, that's, I mean, incredible.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You got that version of Ain't Misbehaving with him and Leon Redbone together. And he's down in the basement. And then the next thing you know, he's doing Kalijah and he's up through the rafters on it. Now he's batshit crazy. These days, and I guess rightly so. I guess if you're that successful, you're
getting pressure from every angle.
You got a Canon collection. You go out there and shoot them for fun on a Friday or whatever.
If I had the money, I'd do it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You kidding me?
I do love one of the nexus to East Tennessee history
singer.
Is the fact about Hank Williams and his last ride and all that. That is such an intriguing story to me, especially the time I spent working in Granger County to learn the backstory of that.
With so much mystery around it.
That's right.
Just shrouded in, where did he die? When was he dead?
So I was checking fishing licenses one day over on the north side of Clinch Mountain in a little backwater over there. And there was a guy that I checked. And I saw his last name. His last name was Kitts. And he said, I said, you got the same last name as that state trooper that stopped Hank's car on his last night. And he said, that's my uncle. He said, I said, are you serious? He said, yeah. He said, he lives in a nursing home, maybe Maynardville or somewhere like that. I said, man, I would give anything to sit down with him and hear the story. He said, man, he'd like to tell it to you. And it was only just a few weeks after that he passed away.
Oh,
so I never got the chance to go hear it. But I was like, man, I wanted to hear that story, you know.
There was two guys that my dad worked with. And I can't remember because I was so young at the time, but they were two of the finest men I'd ever met. And we always would, when we'd be down in East Knoxville around McCullough, down in there, we'd always stop by and see one or the other or both. And one's named Leroy Brookins, and the other one, I don't even remember his real name, but his nickname was Smoke. And, we would go by there. A lot of times we'd go rabbit hunting or whatever, and we'd take what we killed. We'd take them down there to them. And of course, his wife looked like the bottom half of the lady on Tom and Jerry. You remember the big black lady that had the long dress, and you only seen her from the waist down on Tom and Jerry. But she's the sweetest lady. But his son worked at the Howard Johnson as a bellhop, and he said, the daddy said that his son put him in the car.
Really?
Andrew Johnson.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow. Can you imagine?
Now, is that urban legend, or is that something that comes up like, what you may or may not have found out by that old man? Or
so that the old courthouse there in Rutledge, it's still there. It's not where they have court anymore. They have that at a modern justice center. That old courthouse, it was built way back in the day. And that's where the trooper had Charles Carr, who was the driver, follow him up there. They pulled around the back and they went upstairs in the old jail and had him, the driver pay the fine and all that. Well, somebody that I know, their grandfather used to be the clerk there in that county. And apparently they heard that Hank Williams was in town. And you can imagine in a town like Rutledge, word spread like wildfire. Yeah. And they said that people come to the back of the courthouse that night while he was upstairs paying the fine to go, and everybody would look in the car, and it was, Hank all just slumped over. And of course they finished their business upstairs, come back downstairs, got in the car and headed up 11W towards Bristol and on up towards Oak Hill, West Virginia. But it's interesting to hear all those little tidbits like you're talking about.
Yeah.
So what did happen that night is lost to history.
Wasn't it on December 31st, 1951 into 1952? What the when it was?
It was New Year's Eve.
Yeah. So he's been dead for 72 years.
It's been
ish.
Yeah.
That's ish.
Yeah. Well, our good buddy Brandon Fuson, he or Tennessee Brando as his online persona. He did that whole trek.
No kidding.
Yeah. He went from the gravesite all the way up the same route.
On New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
1 year.
Yeah.
He told that story, I think, on.
Did he on our deal?
Not sure. But yeah, it was on New Year's Eve he did. So trying to, reenact the.
It's funny that you say that because I remember I worked one night, and I think I was working for Rutledge Police Department that night, and it was a New Year's Eve. And I can't remember how many years it was. It might have been 70 years since the night of that ride. And I remember riding up through there, and I remember thinking, man, right here on this stretch of road back then, no cars going by, dead of night, it's like, man, this is an eerie feeling for sure.
I always think about how that him dying, would he have been as popular had he not died?
I don't think so.
I mean, would he have gone on to be,
a saint?
Exactly.
Who knows?
Who knows? It's just something that.
His last number one hit when he died
was after
his last one that that he had was, I'll never get out of this world alive.
Mm-hmm.
That was the, and if you listen to Dollar, I've dropped a line on that. I said, I would count myself lucky if I ever make it out alive.
Right.
And that's because of that. There's a couple of, can't remember if it's in the same verse, but there's a couple in it. There's another one that says, every time I think I got it made in the shade, they cut the tree down again. And that's a nod to the old Jimmy Martin song, I've got it made in the shade if the tree don't fall.
Right.
But I don't know if he, that's an interesting debate you could have if the legend made him even bigger.
People love martyrs, Well,
I mean, Buddy Holly.
That's right.
It's, I mean, you think about some of the other ones that died, like Elvis, he was already, already had his career,
right.
And so did Michael Jackson, for example. But it just, everything about Hank Sr. is like, mysterious.
I agree.
It's,
agreed.
Have I told the one about Elvis and the significance of Pearl Harbor?
I don't think so.
Correlation on that. You guys know that one? I don't know if I've ever told that one here or not, but so the first year I got to go to Hawaii, one of the big things I definitely wanted to do is I wanted to get to Honolulu and see Pearl Harbor. It was the only real touristy thing that I wanted to do.
Right.
And so we got there late that night and stayed, and then got up early the next morning and did the tour. So we had a guy come and get us, and part of a package deal that we got, and our driver was a Hawaiian who grew up there. And so he was more than your normal tour bus guy. He would really get into a bunch of different things, and things that would challenge you to think, and things that you didn't know. Like, we always thought that they were this wild civilization and savages, and and they had indoor plumbing before anybody. They had telephones before anybody. They had their aqueduct system that they made to give back to the ocean the water that they got from the mountains. That was all light years ahead of everybody.
Right.
Well, we get to Pearl Harbor, and so when you get there, it's one of those. I don't know if you've ever been on one of those tours where they give you the headphones.
Yeah.
And you just walk around, and it. You have the person who's narrating the guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm at station 1. I hit the one, it's that. And it's Jamie Lee Curtis actually reading it on this one.
Wow.
Which kind of got me excited a little bit. I'm just saying. And you're thinking, oh, she's an old lady. Yeah, go back and watch 48 Hours.
That's right.
Motherfuckers.
48 Hours.
And get back to me.
Or Trading Places.
There's a couple of, Trading Places. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a couple of big things we can talk about on that one. And you'll see. Yeah. Oh, shit. So, but at any rate, we're going through there, and we get through a bunch of the tour, and, there's all the inland stuff, and then, the Arizona and everything's out in the bay. So, but you can see it all from where you're at, and you can see the monument. And we had a lunch break, and you got like a sack lunch. So we went and got our lunch, and we walked back out to the parking lot. And, of course, we were going to burn one, and our tour bus driver he wanted in on the action. You know, he was a cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, none of that is looked down upon over there.
No.
And he got to telling us, and he said, well, do you know why that memorial is sitting out there? And we were like, well, I guess the government, you know, or whatever. So turns out Elvis, when he went to do the Aloha from Hawaii, the big TV special that in that time was broadcast via satellite to more than 100 million homes worldwide. The biggest thing, you know, way before pay-per-view, there was, you know, way before streaming or anything. Right. I mean, this was big shit. He had told the government that there needed to be a memorial or a monument there for those soldiers for those naval guys who had fallen during this attack. And he said, whatever amount of money that I raise off of this syndicated satellite TV feed around the world, whatever amount of money off of that, he says, if you all will match up to 10% of that, we'll put that memorial.
Wow.
And so Elvis was responsible.
Oh, wow.
For putting that memorial out there over the Arizona.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
That's very
blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then so being a little skeptical, I was like, this guy, I mean, this is pretty good stuff we're smoking.
Is he wanting a tip?
This was a pretty good stuff we're smoking. Did he just make some shit up or what happened? But as we got through the tour, then it told it on the deal. But yeah, he was responsible for having that actually made as a monument to those men that got crazy.
Elvis was definitely American first, that's for sure.
Most underrated musician of all time, in my opinion, just because of all the popularity he had. People, especially our generation, because my mama was in love with Elvis, like literally.
Everybody was. All the way was.
And, well, some of them were in love with Conway Twitty, but, so he was the...
Not Harold Jenkins.
He was there. You're right. Yeah.
But Conway
Twitty. Correct.
The original Mr. T.
But, he was there. He was mom's Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Beatles or the same kind of thing. And, you grew up Elvis, whatever else. And, you liked him or hey, but as I got older, I started listening to him more and appreciating the fact that he's pretty damn good too. Mm-hmm. Wasn't just all charisma. He was
he was a singer. He was a showman. He was an entertainer.
Yeah.
I mean, all that. I did that thing with Cruz back. Was it first of last year?
No.
Or first of this year.
This year. Yeah.
Yeah, it was this year. And they did a thing for it was him, Aaron Snuckles got it all together, and they were doing a benefit for, I think it might have been for the Love Kitchen, or it was for a good cause. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but it was but Snuckles and Phil Williams, who was the old DJ from, Rock 104. Yeah. Not 103.5 or 104.
When a dial was really a dial.
Yeah. You could just fine tune it in, man. They shared the same birthday as Elvis. So that's why the Elvis theme to this show.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And, and Cruz called me up and he's like, man, I'm doing this thing. And he's like, I would like to have you be a part of it. And I said, sure, I'd love to. And he was like, you got to do Elvis songs. I was like, okay, I can wrap my head around that. But I didn't have something right off the top of my head that I knew I would do. So I spent probably a month, of just listening to nothing but from Teddy Bear on up, and man, was just blown away.
Right.
Was blown away. I mean, was just, I guess, from being so young when he was being so young at the time when I remembered him, that I didn't think nothing, whatever. Okay.
That's what I was getting at.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then going back and listening to it as an adult and listening to, like I said, from Teddy Bear all the way up to, In the Ghetto, or it was just like, holy shit.
Right. What was it you ended up singing?
I sang, Little Sister, which was kind of a layup, honestly. But then I picked one to really challenge me, and then I picked Little Sister, which I knew I could do with no problem. But I picked, It's Now or Never.
That's a good one.
And man, it was good. And I crushed it. It was really good. And when I got done, I was like, I don't know. I was fired up before it, but when I got done, it was just, but the main thing is just the body of work that I went back with adult ears, fresh ears, and listened to all
being
that.
A professional
and was just like, holy cow, this guy was so good.
Right.
So good.
Yeah. And I guess what I mean by it is, like, if you think about the other superstars in our lifetime and even before, it's like, you don't have to go tell anybody that Michael Jackson's good. Of course he's good. Oh God, yes, Michael Jackson. But Elvis, why is Mama's music or whatever? Shit, man.
But if Michael Jackson would have hit when we were at that same age that Elvis passed, which I guess in some ways he did with the Jackson 5 and stuff like that. But if Thriller had came back, you know what I mean? It would have been a whole new conversation on that as well.
That's right.
I would think. Think it would be, but we've talked about a lot of good things.
We have. A lot of good things.
I tell you what, I had worked outside today, and Jamie and I had traded a few texts, and it wasn't necessarily that I wasn't looking forward to it, but it was almost like it was laborsome.
Right.
By the time I got in, I was so freaking hot, and I had to get this done and do this and do that. And it never fails. It always happens when we're able to have a guest come in, that it's like by the end of it, there's so much more you could talk about, and it always makes me happy. So you made me happy today, Jeff.
Well, I appreciate that. Not many people can say that when a law enforcement officer shows up.
Well, I take it all back. Sorry, folks. But no, it's good to see you, and glad to know that you're doing well, and wish you the best of luck. Come by anytime, man.
Thank you.
If you want to visit, where I'm at. And of course, I know you and Jamie have been close friends and continue to talk. I don't understand why. But
see the shit I put
nonetheless. But Jamie, you want to do another one?
Oh yeah.
Folks, thanks again for coming by, sticking around. Be sure to like, subscribe, share it to all your friends. We'll try to do another one the next time and keep consistent content coming towards you. Remember, anybody can be an asshole, and it takes somebody extra special not to be. And say something kind to somebody, do something nice for someone, because without question, there's always consequences for cruelty. So you heard it here first. One more for the good guys. Thanks again, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
See you next time.
Much.
You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.